as well. All right, who's excited for Gymnast Skyward Sword run? I know I am. Yeah! All right, very excited for this run. Take it away, Gymnast. Good luck to you.
All right. Here we are.
Welcome to Skyward Sword.
Yeah, so this is going to be The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword Any Percent for the Nintendo Wii. So do we have the final file name, or the file name that raised the most amount of money?
I think you'll be very pleased to learn that it is indeed honk.
Excellent.
That's what I would like to hear.
Hey. Is that all caps, or?
No, just the H is capitalized.
All right.
Do we need an exclamation mark?
No, I don't think it.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right, we got the exclamation mark. All right, so before we begin the run here, I would just like to, if the couch would want to introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Billy P75.
I'm Test Runner.
I'm Zaylux.
And yeah, this is going to be, once again, The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword Any Percent. So are we ready for a countdown? All right, 3, 2, 1, go. All right, so Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. The first time this game got shown off was at SGDQ 2014. And back then, the run estimate was about 5 hours and 45 minutes. Then at SGDQ 2018, 4 years later, the run estimate became 5 hours and 15 minutes. So it dropped by half an hour in about 4 years. But now, a year and a half later at AGDQ 2020, the estimate is now 2 hours and 30 minutes, which is a pretty big drop, especially since for most of this game's history, it's been one that's thought to be like kind of unbreakable. I mean, there were some things that like we could almost do, but they weren't quite possible to do. Also, our hero Honk is being talked to by Instructor Hornwell over here. He's very impressed that we're playing this game in hero mode right now, because this run is done on a hero mode file of Skyward Sword. Hero mode is basically like a second quest or New Game Plus file of Skyward Sword. And the biggest reason we run in hero mode is simply because we can skip cutscenes in hero mode, which you can't do in normal mode. So that saves quite a bit of time because there are quite a lot of cutscenes in this game. And we are also playing on the Japanese version simply because the Japanese text is the fastest of all the languages that we have available.
Interesting thing about hero mode is not only is it just generally faster, and it's been faster for a long time, even without the cutscene skipping, this route is impossible. Or I guess like with the cutscene skipping, this route is impossible on normal mode. You'll find out why later. But there's also a lot of quality of life changes that hero mode has that make some strats easier and some faster strats for bosses especially possible in the first place.
All right, so now we're going to save our game right here after we just met Zelda. The biggest trick that this game has is a glitch known as Back in Time. And Back in Time is an extremely versatile glitch that's going to be used very frequently throughout the run. And to activate Back in Time, we first need to die. So we're going to be doing that on this west cliff of Skyloft right here. This is usually where we queue up the, oh no, I'm so bad at this game jokes, and make people laugh. We're clearly
Jim, come on.
Jim!
Listen, you need to go to the right. Grush is over there.
Right? Okay.
Yeah.
Come on, you got it this time.
All right, so we're going to go to the right, right?
Oh,
Now,
Jim.
come on.
Wow.
Got him.
It'd be like that.
But yeah, so...
Do you still have time to reset?
Yeah, now that we're dead, I'm going to continue on this game over screen with the right option, and then I'm going to reset the game with the home menu, and this is going to activate the Back in Time glitch. So Link's essentially going to fall into the title screen right here, because the title screen is actually a part of the game that is playable if you manage to enter it in a state like this. It's actually just like a separate state of the Skyloft map itself. So we'll be doing some interesting stuff with this. So first we're going to bonk this tree, and that's actually important. And then as we come up here, I'm going to delete the third file that I just copied over, and then I'm going to save my third file as it's being deleted, which will essentially create what's known as a corrupt file on file 3, which unfortunately does not have the honk file name anymore. It just has like a null character.
We'll get it back, don't worry.
We'll get another one.
There will be plenty of honk.
Yeah, so that corrupt file will be used a little bit later in the run, and we'll see what it does then. For now, though, we're actually going to go inside the goddess statue, which is open on this weird state of Skyloft right here, so we'll just be going in here. I'm going to be picking up the goddess sword, which is here inside the goddess statue, and as I do this, I'm going to be starting my first file. Right, so after the Skyward Strike charges up here, I'm going to start file 1, and this is going to put the goddess sword on my first file, since I started my file, and then the game decided to put the goddess sword on it. So it doesn't look like Link has the goddess sword right now, but he actually does. We just have to reload the area for him to actually visually get it. And so that technique that I did where I put the goddess sword on my file is a technique known as reverse bit magic. And the name sounds kind of weird, but we'll be able to explain it a little better later.
Will we, though?
Well,
It's just bit magic.
Yeah, clearly.
Reverse.
It's just magic.
Yeah.
It's just magic.
All right, well,
Never heard of reverse magic?
now that we have our goddess sword, we're going to go and save our Loftwing. This is actually like the main thing that we need to do on Skyloft, because if we don't have our Loftwing, then we can't like really progress through any other part of the game. So it's pretty important that we get it. So we'll be running over here to the waterfall cave. As far as movement goes in this game, generally you just want to sprint everywhere. Sprinting is very obviously the fastest form of movement in this game. If we have excess stamina that we don't need to use, or that we don't use up by sprinting, we can replace sprinting with rolling, since rolling will save 1 frame over sprinting for every roll that you do. So over the course of the whole run, that can add up to maybe 4 or 5 seconds or so if we do all of our rolls correctly. And then, hello, Keys.
You'll notice a lot of times when Jim's moving around that, especially through loading zones, he's going to be doing a variety of different things entering them. Some of them, it's going to be faster for him to run out of stamina. Others, he's going to make sure he's sprinting or rolling through with stamina. And other loading zones, like he did earlier in the goddess statue, he's going to actually press his C button or do some other method to completely stop all speed when entering a loading zone. Depending on the situation in the area, different situations are going to be faster.
I mean, that kind of optimization, of course, saves an order of a second or two.
Yeah.
But it adds up, you do it for every loading zone in the game.
All right, so now we need to cut the ropes off of these wooden bars to free our Loftwing. As many of you who have played Skyward Sword probably know, this game's combat is based off of motion controls with the Wii Remote and the nunchuck. So, if I want to slash my sword downwards, I have to slash the Wii Remote like this. Horizontally, I want to go like this. Typically, the movement isn't actually that big. It just requires, some small wrist movement to do correctly. And a lot of other things in this game are also motion-based, flying with our Loftwing here. This is the Loftwing tutorial, and we're actually going to see this Loftwing tutorial about 4 more times in the run. So
we heard that casually a lot of players had trouble controlling the Loftwing. So Jim really wants to make sure that
everyone learns how to do it.
Yeah, everyone learns how to fly this guy.
See if we get good
now
luck.
we just kind of have to wait around while the Loftwing tutorial.
This tutorial is purely time-based, so you can't really do anything to speed it up.
Then think of the power of this file name.
All right, so now that the Loftwing tutorial is over, normally we would go through the wing ceremony at this point, and we would get the sailcloth from Zelda, but we're actually not going to do that. I'm going to save and quit my file here so that I keep the progress that I have, but then I'm going to exit out and open up the corrupt file that I have on file 3. Right, so in the corrupt file, every single value is set to 0. That includes Link's health, so he just
lived a long
died.
life. But it was his time.
This is very useful because it gives us a fast way to do back in time right here. And from here on out, I'm just going to use the physical button that's on the Wii, which resets the console, because that's faster than going into the home menu screen to reset the game. And then I'm also going to be copying file 1 to file 2 right here, because I'm going to need its properties for later.
We should also note that when he copies, you press the plus button, but you see the plus button is also used to open the map, and at this point, opening them at any point during backing time would crash the game. So you have to be very careful to do the copy at a point when the map button is disabled.
Honk, honk. All right, so I'm going to save my first file right here, and then copy it again. Don't question that. So now my saved first file is copied to my second file, and I'm going to be going into the training academy right here. Because I'm going to be doing another iteration of reverse bit magic, but this time on the training sword, because I actually need the value for the training sword on my file. I do have to be careful here, though, because I don't want to select a file while I do this, or at least while the chest is opening. Otherwise, the game's going to crash, which is not a good thing. So now that the text is going, I can start my file, collect the training sword, and now we have the value that I want on file 1, so that we can use it later for other special things that will happen on the title screen. And now we're basically done with Skyloft. We skipped the entire wing ceremony, we skipped the chase sequence with Phi, and so now we just need to go in and place the Emerald Tablet. Also, there's a second goddess sword right here that we never picked up, apparently.
Forgery.
And this is just the regular sequence you have to go through to get off of Skyloft. You have to put in the Emerald Tablet, open up the Faron Pillar of Light to the surface, and then we will be on our way.
There is another route to this, and it involves a 2-frame side hop getting out of a cutscene, so it's not really safe for marathons.
Yeah, this is more of a marathon safe route, specifically for the beginning portion of Skyloft. The normal way that you would get past doing the wing ceremony is you would do as Bailey said, a 2-frame side hop out of the cutscene trigger for the wing ceremony. But if you miss that, you lose 4 minutes, so it's not really the safest thing to do in a marathon setting. And just for comparison, this route versus the optional route loses about 30 seconds. All right, so now we got our hero garb, and we can finally get off of Skyloft. And then we also have to collect the item pouch from Fledge over here, who we talked to earlier at the beginning of the run. So if we have some donations right now, we can read like 1 or 2.
Oh my gosh, I know we don't have that much time, but I have so many donations for you. And there's so much honk in here.
Oh, great.
Well, first of all, we have a quick $1,000 donation from Jager. I think you guys can guess what it says.
Honk?
Honk, hype!
Well played.
We also have a $25 donation from SirBill17, who says, "It's been a blast watching this game get driven down by more than 2 hours since SGDQ 2018. Good luck, Jim. 25 more if you pull off extending blow again." Good luck.
Thank you. All right, so now we can finally leave off of Skyloft. I did a weird shift there in my skydive because that allows me to hit a loading zone that's actually closer to the Faron pillar than the normal one off of that boardwalk is. And then right here, as we approach the Faron pillar, there's normally a Phi cutscene that's supposed to play for our Loftwing, but if we dive off of our Loftwing and then just skydive into the Faron pillar, we'll actually skip that Phi cutscene. It saves 10 seconds. And this is not the longest skydiving session in the game, just for future reference.
Just wait.
This is just practice.
And another thing to note is that we also skipped getting the wooden shields. There's a free wooden shield you can get from one of the professors if you talk to them outside of the Knight Academy when you get the hero's clothes. But it's actually about 4 seconds faster over the course of the run to skip the shield, so we don't get it anymore.
There's only really 2 major areas in the game where the shield even saves much time. And besides that, it's mostly just a safety tool.
It's nice safety for the final boss.
Yeah. Sure. But they're more fun without shield.
Yeah. It's more of a challenge.
Yeah.
Fight clenching.
Yeah, so we can just side hop to get past these Deku Babas. And for some reason, it saves 3 frames to jump slash into the void there instead of landing on the ground. There's a lot of weird little things that save a few frames here. And also, because I skipped the sailcloth, I can't avoid taking damage there, really. So I have to get the damage that's done via the fall. Also, another thing that we didn't mention yet, but or I don't think we mentioned, but the hero mode version of Skyward Sword does double damage. But since we need to die to do back in time, double damage is actually pretty good for the most part because it allows us to die faster.
And we'll be at like 2 hearts for like the rest of the run.
Hope you like beeping. Yeah.
Well, as a Skyward Sword runner, I've tuned out the beeping at this point.
What beeping? So. Never heard it.
We have time for one quick donation.
Sure thing. Everybody's ready to honk. Guys. We have a $25 donation from FTab who says, "Bucks for bonks." I will be donating $10 per bonk this run, well as all other Zelda speedruns this week. Everybody get your bonk emotes out. #gymnast.
And also, because we skipped the sailcloth, Link just kind of throws his arms in the air and he rides these air vents up.
It's really lucky that skipping the sailcloth, like there's no hard requirement to go up gusts. You could just go up them without the sailcloth at all. It'd be really funny if we had to get that just to come back up here.
I mean, it's the same like when you like first land in each area. There's like a cutscene where you pull your sailcloth out when you hit the ground, and
Yeah, he doesn't have it.
he doesn't have a hail sailcloth, but he does it anyways.
All right, so now we're going to go get the bottle, which is in a corner chest in this room. And then we will be talking to Impa, who's going to tell us lots of great lore information about the game that we don't need to know because we're speedrunning it.
But it's all about the lore, man. I have to know the story.
All right, so we have this glitch in this game that we mentioned earlier called Back in Time, which, as I mentioned, is going to be used quite frequently throughout the run. You're probably wondering, like, why is it called Back in Time? Like, what does that have to do with playing the game on the title screen? And the story behind that is Back in Time is actually a glitch that's shared by multiple Zelda games. It's shared by Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, and Skyward Sword, although it's by far the most useful in Skyward Sword. Also, I need to place this beacon here, so... All right.
First try. Let's go.
did it.
Congratulations.
That beacon's actually really tricky. It's more lenient when you're zoomed out on the map there, but even if you're just like a little bit of the X is off, she can tell you to redo it. And then you can take the marker off and then put the marker back on with more of the X exposed, and she'll say that it's okay.
She's a cartographer by profession. She knows her map.
Has to be perfect.
Yeah, so as we go out to the behind the temple area right here, we can have this nice camera cutscene showing us the beacon. We can actually take away the beacon and this cutscene will still play, and it's like, here's the sky. All right, and now we're about to get into our first actual sword fight of the run. Well, sort of.
Sword.
Yeah. So here are these 6 bokoblins. One of the nice perks of a hero mode file is that our Skyward Strike is extremely overpowered. So just get rid of all those guys like that. Normally we'd hit all of them, but that guy was way over there for some reason.
Skyward Strikes actually start with the tower the Master Sword has from the end of the game. So you're able to one-shot most enemies with them, so we'll use that quite a lot.
Yeah, and the important thing to note is that we need to be far enough away from the enemy so that our sword doesn't actually collide with the enemy's hitbox. Otherwise, the enemy just takes regular sword damage because the sword takes priority over the Skyward Strike.
Depending on the case, though, there will be a time later in this run where Jim will want to hit an enemy with the sword and the Skyward Strike at the same time.
Right. Also, back to the Back in Time explanation that I was mentioning earlier. Back in Time is a glitch that, again, exists in Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, and Skyward Sword, right? And it was actually first discovered in Twilight Princess all the way back in 2007, when most of us were still young. So when it was discovered in Twilight Princess, it was actually discovered in the Arbiter's Grounds dungeon, which is a little more than like halfway through the game. And when glitch hunters figured out Back in Time, and they like played through the game a little bit after performing Back in Time, they realized that they could start the King Boblin 1 fight, which in Twilight Princess happens way before the Arbiter's Grounds. So they were like, oh, well, clearly this glitch takes us back in time, so let's just name it that. Even though that...
oh, were they wrong?
Yeah.
How innocent.
Yeah, so that's the story behind the name of the glitch. But like, if it was named something like Tidal Control, that would be a more descriptive term, but we have Back in Time. It's also, it's sometimes abbreviated as bit, like BIT. That's what reverse bit magic, that's what the bit in reverse bit magic stands for.
If you expect any Zelda game with categories, tricks to have a good name, you got to go somewhere else.
Where you're wrong, yeah.
Abandon hope, all you who enter here.
All right, so now we're in Faron Woods, and we have to go through and just do a bunch of questing stuff for eventually getting the slingshot. It is very important that we get the slingshot. The slingshot is actually used quite a bit in the run, and the seed count with the slingshot is not exactly the most lenient, so we hope we don't miss any of our shots either. Because we actually need to collect the slingshot, since if we don't collect it, we actually won't be able to collect any other items in the game, because collecting the slingshot also unlocks the ability to use the B wheel, or the item wheel in this game. And without the item wheel, you actually can't access any items. It even goes so far that it's like, you know, if you were to get an item like the claw shots first without having gotten the slingshot, Link would just hold the claw shot above his head indefinitely, because the game like can't put it in the menu.
You'll notice that he bonked a wall right there and knocked that vine over. We're actually supposed to shoot that later with a slingshot, and it changes the text a little bit because of that.
Yeah.
It's the little things.
I mean, the text being displayed there is also still wrong. He says like, "Oh wow, you shot that down without even jumping down." Impressive. But, you know, or it works.
It's close enough.
Yeah, it saves routing time, being able to swing on that. Being able to swing on that vine to get to the first of the 3 Kikwis that we need to go and find. Because basically the Kikwi Elder's very worried about where his Kikwi brethren are, and we need to go make sure that they're all okay.
So starting here, Jim is actually going to have a few, earlier in that conversation, he had a few text options that he could do for Link to say a couple different things. In some cases, it's completely irrelevant what you say to a character. What they respond to you with is exactly the same, or more or less the same amount of text. But in other cases, you can save upwards of 20 seconds just by picking the right text box.
I mean, there's a few places where you put the wrong text, you get looped, so...
For instance, all of Faron's actually the left option, so it's pretty easy to remember.
Yeah, and also you'll notice that we have to do some stamina management in this game with the stamina wheel that we have. Generally, we want to let our stamina wheel refill to the first quarter of the stamina meter, because the first quarter will actually deplete half as slowly as the first 3 quarters normally would. Oh man, it's tricky. So typically the strategy is, you know, waste most of your stamina up until the very end, because you don't want to have no stamina, since that's really slow most of the time. And then you let it refill to a quarter, use up it all, or use it all up, and then just rinse and repeat for as long as you need to do that.
Yeah, that can get really tricky, because if you do use it all up, you get exhausted, which essentially stuns you while you wait. If you do like a spin attack or roll, it uses a bunch at once. And for example, if you like slightly more than a quarter and you do a spin attack, it will just instantly exhaust you. So you have to be really careful about how much stamina you have.
Yeah, unfortunately, unlike Breath of the Wild, we don't have any types of techniques that can be commonly used in a run to have increased or essentially infinite stamina. You really have to manage it. It's part of what separates different tiers of runners, how well they manage their stamina, how well they just move through areas, going across slopes, where they roll, how many rolls they do. This game's movement's very technical.
I mean, the game also does give you, like, potions that can make your stamina not deplete at all, essentially making it infinite for, like, a few minutes. But those aren't really worth the trouble to get, unfortunately. And you can't get them until you've beaten the Lanayru region of the game and gotten the harp.
I'm sorry, I don't know what that is.
All right, so for this Kikwi, I want to cut this grass in such a way so that the Kikwi doesn't move. Because if the Kikwi moves, the Kikwi crawls like really slowly across the ground to try to like take cover in whatever grass is remaining. But if we cut off all the grass at once from where it's hiding like that, then it just instantly becomes the NPC that we can talk to, so that we can set the check for having found it. All right, so we got one more Kikwi coming up here. Just under this hole over here. If we have another donation too that we want to read, we can do that now.
Oh, I have donations for you. We have a $15 donation from Daxter23 Jack, who says, if I could get the couch to do their best impression of Link's grunt, I would be grateful.
Starting with you, Zay.
No, we can start with Bailey.
No.
I would do it all together.
Oh.
Hide the evidence.
Actually, there's a part later in the run that's really good for this.
Okay, you can do it later. It's all
All
good.
right.
Anyway.
Got my word on that.
We're going to regret.
Yeah, I don't know why we agreed.
And then they
no
said,
regrets.
thanks to all the volunteers. Oh, thanks to all the volunteers and everybody working behind the scenes.
Give it up for the volunteers.
Absolutely.
You can read one more.
Okay. We have a $20 donation from Carrie Fu01, who says, honk! Good luck, Jim. Happy to be watching and happy to donate.
Thank you. All right, so now that we've finished this long conversation with Buka, we can finally get the slingshot. Also, yeah.
Q.
Oh my.
Oh my.
Oh, what is happening?
That was
That was an
terrifying.
aggressive cue over there.
Akiku's angry.
All right, so now we got the slingshot. We unlocked the item wheel. We're also now going to go through one of the most beep-heavy small segments of the run. During this next segment, the B button is going to be beeping because it wants us to use the slingshot. Phi is going to be beeping because we're on low health. Our stamina is going to be beeping because we're going to be using it, and our hearts are going to be beeping because we're at low health, technically.
But at least the C button isn't beeping because he pressed C earlier.
Yeah, the C button could also be beeping right now, but I decided to spare you guys.
I don't know what you guys are talking about. I don't hear any beeping.
He's scarred. Too many years.
Just imagine all these beeps were replaced with honks.
Oh my.
Oh wow.
Oh no.
It's an Easter egg we never knew about till right now.
That's what's they're gonna change on the Skyward Sword remake. It's all gonna be honks.
All right, so before we enter the deep woods, though, we're actually going to go up to this statue and we're going to save, die, and then do back in time again. So we don't have the bombs yet, so we can't like easily get Link down to 0 hearts with that. But there is a Bokoblin conveniently standing on the lower level of this platform here. Get its attention.
We have a friend over here.
How you doing? Oh,
Aw, that's rude.
Luckily, pretty much everything in this game does 2 hearts of damage to you.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so this time we're going to be doing another iteration of reverse bit magic. The first one that we did earlier was with the Goddess Sword, and the second one was with the Training Sword. Both of those gave us what we expect them to give us, right? So with the Goddess Sword RBM, we got the Goddess Sword. With the Training Sword RBM, we got the Training Sword. But this one is going to be a little bit different.
A
little.
Just a little. All right, so there's a set of logs that's on the other side of Skyloft here, right in front of the waterfall cave, so we're going to be running around to those. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut down the logs after we start file 1, which you'd think like, okay, so you're going to cut down these logs on file 1. That's not what's going to happen. Instead, the game is going to take the sort of ID of the event of cutting down these logs, and it's going to apply that event not to Skyloft, but to Faron Woods instead. And Faron is going to interpret that to be something completely different than cutting down the logs on Skyloft. Unfortunately, we're not going to actually see the effect of that until a little bit later, but just keep in mind that we did that.
Yeah, that explanation was probably very confusing and will need some repeating because it's a really complex idea that's being done here.
All right. Although before we do that, we have a little special trick that we're going to hope that we get here.
Hopefully.
So I have to stun this Bokoblin over here, and there's another Bokoblin over here that I'm going to stun also. And then I'm going to attempt to hit the Bokoblin into a very precise location on the edge of this seam right here. Unfortunately, the Bokoblin flew a little too far, so we aren't going to be getting that. But instead, we can go and do this other trick called the Cube Warp. So basically, there's this goddess cube up there that the Goron is looking at. And I'm going to lure this Bokoblin over here so that I can use the Bokoblin to angle my Skyward Strike upwards and hit the goddess cube from down here. Oh, he juked me.
Debated.
That's really far back. Yeah, the Bokoblin moved a little too far back right there.
Well.
All right, there we go.
There we go.
Okay.
Hey.
So we hit the Goddess Cube with the Skyward Strike, and this teleported us up onto the ledge over here, so that we don't have to go around the entire area like we normally would have to.
Yeah, that cube is very weird because that's the only cube that when you hit it, it starts like cutscene that'll teleport you. So this is like the only place that's useful. And also,
That's okay. Master Honk.
the other thing is that none of the other cubes would even be interactable at all unless you hit that one. So it's...
All right. Also, normally you can skip this text box, but you're supposed to do a jump slash right before you hit the ground, but I was a little bit late with the motion of the jump slash, so that's okay though.
Jim attempted to do a trick called extending blow, as a donation comment mentioned earlier. It's, I wouldn't say it's hard. It's just luck.
Yeah, the trick that I was trying to do with the Bokoblin, if done correctly, would have actually shot Link all the way across the map to the Skyview Temple. So it's unfortunate that we didn't get it. But again, it's RNG because the Bokoblin needs to land in a very specific spot on the ledge that I was trying to lure him towards. And when the Bokoblin gets knocked back, it's actually random how far he gets knocked back. So the chance of that trick actually working is only about 25% because there are 4 different knockback distances that the Bokoblin has. But anyway.
Yeah, this is where the fun begins right here.
When Jim does extending blow, that's a trick that can be done theoretically anywhere. There's not really a setup for it in every location, but when you do it in an area, it shoots you towards the origin of the map.
Right.
So the origin in this area just happens to be somewhere useful.
Yeah, in most regions, the origin is in a pretty useless location.
Yeah, so now we've entered the Skyview Temple, and we've saved and done back in time. This time we're going to be doing a completely different trick that's not reverse bit magic. We're going to be doing what's known as a bit warp. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to actually first need to select file 2, and then bonk on that tree. Bonking on that tree with file 2 open will actually open up the gates that lead to the Knight Academy up there. That's known as bit magic, where we take information from our file and apply it to back in time. But this bit warp up here, we're going to save and start our file at this statue at the same time. And this is going to take the coordinates that we had on Skyloft and apply them to the Skyview map. And so this essentially teleported us very deep within the dungeon, allowing us to skip like a good 2/3 of it or so.
Yeah, the entire beginning of this dungeon, to be honest, I don't know what it is. Jim doesn't know what it is. No one on this couch knows what it is. It's been years since any of us have seen it. This is one of the oldest bit warps, at least. I think every popular run from over the years has used it.
And if you notice when he's going through back in time, he'll go to different files and stuff. Like, for instance, he bonked that tree with file 2. That was what actually set the gate up at the top of Skyloft to be open so that he can actually get to that title screen, or to the save statue. There's a lot of different applications with that. There's a lot of rooms that will crash depending on what file you have, and we have to worry about that quite a lot.
Okay, nice spider skip.
Yeah, we don't have the beetle, so we have to use a Skyward Strike to make the spider swing side to side. We will be getting the beetle now, though.
Yeah, the enemy's pretty terrifying because if you mistime that jump, it would kill you, and you have to do this entire segment over.
Ironically, just one spider is one of the scariest things in this run. This first dungeon in general is actually really scary. If you die here, Jim will have to save again at the beginning of the dungeon and then redo the back in time warp, which wastes a lot of time.
And it would actually set his hearts back to 6 too, so the keys would have to hit him 6 times.
Yeah. All right, now I get to fight this guy with no shields.
Yeah, this is one of the only fights in the game where the shield would actually just save a bunch of time. But Jim's good at this fight. He doesn't need to block.
Easy.
Yeah, so, yeah. We essentially just wait for the Stalfos to be vulnerable in a direction. As far as, my preferences of attack go, I personally prefer when he allows me to swing at him from the side instead of from, up and down, because I just find it to be easier to swing in from the sides. So now here's the beetle. I actually really like this puzzle casually when you get the beetle and then have to exit this room. You just have to hit the exact same switch that you used to enter the room, but you have to fly the beetle over to it.
Creative.
Also, interesting thing about beetle flying. The beetle will travel slower if it's traveling up or down versus traveling just like on a plane or like a horizontally flat plane. So it's actually fastest to make the beetle go up to whatever distance it needs to get to. And then, nice.
Oh, nice keys.
The key stole that Skyward Strike. Yeah, so we want to fly the beetle up to whatever height it needs to get to and then just fly straight from there because the horizontal speed is fastest. Also, I need to get this red rupee. I don't actually need any money, but I need the game to remember that I got that red rupee. Because getting that red rupee will set a flag in this area that will be useful when I load it into the title screen later.
Similarly, when Jim was in the room with the Hydra, he also broke some planks that were covering a passageway. That's another flag that he needs set for later on in the game.
Okay, so now we're going to save, and we're going to do another version, or another iteration of reverse bit magic. To die this time, I'm going to make my way back over to this guy, and he's going to hit me into the void.
Conveniently, there's two of them.
Yeah. It's actually faster to die into a void, because then you skip the animation of Link like falling on his knees and the camera panning around and all that. So, that's pretty nice. So, for this specific use of reverse bit magic, I'm actually going to be saving file 3 after I copy it over from file 1. So I'm copying file 1 to file 3. I'll be using the properties of this file later, as we said. And now I'm going to select file 2 and bonk into this tree. And this is going to once again open up the gates up here. And now, when I save file 3 up at this statue, a specific set of flags will get loaded in from file 3 that will produce a cutscene trigger on this map. And what I want to do is I want to start file 1. Actually, hold on. Did I copy that back?
Oh, Seed of Life.
Oh, yeah, that's the Seed of Life. All right, let's try this again.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't turn the camera right there, otherwise I end up in that soft lock. So
what's funny about that little soft lock is that was actually one of the biggest tricks we had for a little bit. We would get the Seed of Life back in time, and now it's just an annoyance.
Yeah. We went from one of the biggest breaks between two GDQ runs, pretty much, to being something that could just lose us a lot of time.
Yeah, so the cutscene he's trying to trigger here is that after you get the practice sword and you leave the academy training hall, there's a cutscene where a gossip stone pops out and says, "Hey, I have a hint stone if you need any hints," or whatever. And there's a flag of whether or not you've watched that cutscene. So that's the one we care about right here.
Yeah, so what I failed to do last time is I failed to recopy file 1. Because by by saving file 3 at this statue, file 3 is now actually saved in Skyloft, but I want file 3 to still be saved in Skyview for this. So now I'm going to start this file, and I'm going to roll into the trigger for that cutscene. It was a little hard to see because of the fade out, but the cutscene did start.
That's part of the drawback of the safety route, is that it's actually more complicated to do that specific back in time and a couple other ones, just because of how your files are set up. File management and where your files are and when you're copying them, when you're opening them, as Bailey talked about earlier, is really important in this game. And you have to remember a lot of major things to do, otherwise you could crash or even just brick your run, like nothing you can do, soft lock.
Yeah, so now that we're back in Skyview, we're going to get the boss key and go to the boss. Boss key is thankfully very fast to get. It's like that in most Skyward Sword dungeons, actually. Boss key generally is not too far out of the way.
The boss we're actually about to fight is probably one of the hardest ones in this run.
Hey, good ropes.
It takes quite a lot of concentration to deal with it.
Easily the hardest fight in this game.
It's like an entire, a lot of RNG to figure out
he
how
can
many
throw,
darts you can get.
Yeah. So, that cutscene that we watched as we started file 1 back on the title screen, when we watched that cutscene, it set the flag for that cutscene not in the Skyloft region, but in the Skyview region. And that flag is very nice because it allows us to do what we're currently about to do.
Here we go.
Nope.
Okay.
All right.
Perfect.
All right, 0 darts. Well done. Yeah.
Good job.
Perfect RNG.
Right. So the flag that we set here in the Skyview Temple with the RBM opened up this door at the end of the boss fight and allowed us to progress without having to fight Ghirahim. So he's very sad now back there. That's the only boss that will skip like that, though, in the run.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
It'd be really funny.
Just every boss.
It'd be funny if when you fight Ghirahim again, if you just run past him again.
All 3 times.
He just gets progressively more and more mad that you're ignoring him.
All right, so now we got the Amber Tablet for completing the Skyview dungeon. And so now we're going to be going back to Skyloft to place the Amber Tablet. But we're actually not going to place the Amber Tablet once. We're going to place it twice.
Ooh.
Because we actually want to use reverse bit magic to place the Amber Tablet on 2 files, not just our main run file. So I'm going to be activating back in time again here by selecting file 3 and then dying the same way that you saw earlier where I got curb stomped by the Bokoblin.
This Bokoblin's going to become our best friend. We need him quite a lot.
I don't know. I think he thinks you're his biggest enemy.
He's like, I found the hero. Curb stomp.
His arch nemesis.
Time to get a raise.
Employee of the month. This was like 5 times.
All right, so this time, I need to load in the Amber Tablet that I have on file 1. And the way that I can do that is I can actually collect a rupee with file 1 selected. So I can make a rupee drop down from this tree and then select file 1 while I collect the rupee. So now I've loaded in the Amber Tablet into Back in Time, and I'll be able to place it in Back in Time and then put the Eldin Light Pillar on my second file. So right here, I actually need to check this statue with file 3 and then save file 1 because it's faster to just save file 1 directly back to Skyloft instead of flying there from the Faron region. And I needed to select the statue with file 3 so that I would load information in from file 3. That's going to save a little bit of time as we go into the goddess statue right here. So one of the flags that we set on file 3 in Skyview Temple corresponds to the pedestal being raised up here inside the goddess statue. So the pedestal is just rising on up here. And we can place our ruby tablet into it. So now we're going to get the cutscene for the Eldin Light Pillar, like shooting off into the sky and then forming up. I want to start my second file so that I can get the Eldin Light Pillar on it right as the pillar is forming after a specific camera change happens here. And the leniency for this is like 1 second, so it's generally not very difficult to do. All right, so file 2 is started. We can see here that if we use first-person view, we can see the Eldin Pillar is right there. So that means that we did the RBM successfully, and the Eldin Pillar is now on file 2. So now file 2 has this very specific setup on it, which we're going to be using a lot for title screen stuff later in the run. But for now, we'll go back to file 1, place in the ruby tablet, and then make our way off to the Eldin region. I also need to drink my potion here that I got all the way back in the sealed temple, because I need to be on 6 hearts for when I go into Eldin here.
Eldin's really dangerous. He's going to need every single one of these hearts.
Very scary.
Also, our duplicate goddess sword is still here.
Still a forgery.
All right, so if we have more donations, feel free to read them now.
I got you. We have, and I'm a little sorry for this, but also not, a $15 donation from MCN Mike who says, "Hey guys, it's your friendly neighborhood gamer here. I don't have much wisdom on speedruns, but being able to do a run like this must take a lot of courage. Remember to embrace the power within. Sorry, I won't try to force any more puns into this donation. Super excited for this run, so good luck, gymnast. P.S. Honk!"
Zayla, what's your opinion on puns?
Oh, I love puns.
Oh, yeah? You do?
Yeah.
Okay, good to know.
Interesting.
Totally. Yup.
He wants to hear all of them, guys.
Chat.
We need more.
Why do you guys do this to me?
They love the puns.
Yeah. Hey, Kung Fu.
Yes.
What was that pun with Triforce? What was that about?
I won't try to force any more puns.
What is that a pun on, though? No, I'm seriously asking that question. What is it a pun on?
The Triforce.
What, the Triforce? What's that?
What is that?
That doesn't exist in this game. I don't know what
That's
you're
not a
talking
thing.
about.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Honk force.
The honk force.
The 3 wise gooses.
All right, anyway. Yeah, I don't know. Triforce doesn't exist in this game. so we won't be getting it, of course.
Yeah, there's none of that.
Anyway, so now we've arrived in the Eldin region, our second region of the game. And we're going to start things off with a nice little bit warp. Thankfully, there's lots of damage sources in Eldin because there's like lava everywhere. So we're going to take 2 hearts from this, or 4 hearts, excuse me, from this nice choo-choo right here. And then we're going to do our last 2 hearts in the lava to die quicker.
Can confirm lava is hot.
Really?
Confirmed.
So hot he bounces off of it for some reason.
All right, so this bit warp is going to be using the Bazaar statue instead of the Upper Academy statue like we used back in the Skyview temple. And so basically with bit warps, we can do them wherever we have a statue available on the map run and back in time. So on the Skyloft map, we're limited to the 4 statues that are on this map for bit warp positions. This one's also a little precise, so I want to make sure that my positioning is good. Game's going to lag a lot right here as we load in. Because this bit warp is actually going to spawn us inside a goddess cube, and then the goddess cube is going to push us underground so we can hit the loading zone for the Digging Mitts cave here. And this is why I needed 6 hearts earlier, because I'm going to take 4 right here. And I don't really have a choice there because I don't have the sailcloth. All right, so now we talk to this nice Magma here. He's really sad that all these bokoblins exist, so let's go get rid of them.
We're exterminators now.
As you mentioned with the statues, having statues present in Skyward Sword 2 Enhanced back in time is actually one of the main reasons why you can't do a lot of these shenanigans in TP. It's a really common thread if you talk to any TP runner to be sad. Because all the new things that are found in Zelda games should work. They should work. They're right there. You can see them. You can taste them. But one thing just prevents them from working. And in this case, for something like bit warping, is having save statues with set coordinates in the back in time map.
Yeah. All right, so I'm just going to do a little more throwing up of his arms as we go through some vents here. And for my next magic trick, I'm going to place this bomb down in front of me. It's going to explode and not damage me at all. For some reason, we're not entirely sure why that happens.
We'll never know.
Explosion proof.
Yeah.
They wanted to give us one speedrun trick. That was it. Nintendo was being nice.
This was their one intent.
All right, so yeah, we got the Digging Mitts in that cave. It is technically possible to skip the Digging Mitts, but it takes a while to do. And there's also some parts in the run later where we want to dig up a ferry for use, so... Yeah, unfortunately, this cutscene right here, if you roll into it correctly, you can make Link walk around in circles, but didn't happen, unfortunately. It doesn't save any time, it just looks funny, so that's unfortunate.
Cool strats do save time. They save time in your heart.
Well, this game actually has an interesting history of people doing cool things that are actually All right, but we're going to do another RBM right here. This is the longest one that we'll be doing so far. So continuing and resetting so we spawn back into the title screen. This one's actually going to take place on night back in time. So I'm going to need to go into a house, sleep, and then come back out so I can activate a specific trigger on nighttime Skyloft.
Getting inside nighttime bit is actually a pain. We had to. There's a very specific file setup that you have to get into it, and we actually had to manipulate a lot of stuff in order to get this to work because there were a lot of potential glitches that were in the past that we could never use because they were inside nighttime bit. We couldn't get there in like a certain file, and now we can, luckily.
Yeah, entering any building, either in or out, can pretty easily crash the game unless you have like a very specific set of flags and story bits that...
Like all 3 of our files are very crucial to what we're doing in every single trade.
Which is why Gymnast is like being very careful about selecting certain files as he like interacts with like the bed and the door and so on and so forth in order to make sure the game doesn't crash.
Yeah, so if I had selected file 1 or file 3 to try to go outside here, the game would just crash.
Yeah.
And we'd have to reset, or at least reset to where we last saved. Anyway, for this reverse bit magic, we're going to be opening up the shed here on Skyloft. So I start my file, shed opens up, and now this sets the corresponding flag for what was opening the shed onto the Eldin region, because that's where our file is now located. Okay, good. I didn't get owned by the keys.
That happens.
That would have been really funny.
It would have ruined the surprise, though.
All right, so for this guy, we can sort of just like inch our way up the slope, and then once he turns around, we can run up the slope without having to shoot him with a slingshot seed. Because again, our slingshot seeds are valuable. We don't want to go around wasting a bunch of them. Also, this guy's... hello.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't want to get hit by that explosion. Don't really know what that Bakovan was doing.
And I guess to try to clarify these reverse back-in-time magics a little bit, essentially what's happening is that every scene has a set of like event flags, and what you're doing is you can set like flag number 4 or flag number 42 or whatever, and what we're doing is Jim is setting flags that were supposed to be for one area into another area. So, you know, blowing up some rock in one area would be flag 7, but he's setting flag 7 in a different area, which can cause all sorts of effects.
If you want to see exactly what a lot of flags do, Gymnast has a really good spreadsheet that pretty much has every single area mapped out, all the flags that we know about that area and the location of that flag. And you could just pick a column, pick a row, see that square, read what it does, and then go to another map and find out what it corresponds to.
Yeah, by picking out the same row and column and seeing what that does. So these Mogmas are very concerned about getting inside the Earth Temple.
How are you going to get inside?
I don't know. I think we're supposed to collect like a key or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think that's what these guys are talking about. I don't know. I can't read Japanese.
Actually, they're just going to dig in. I think is what they say they do. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That takes too much work. That takes too much work, though, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
Yeah. I mean,
the fancy digging method is not going to do you no good.
I mean, I don't know. I think that door is an illusion.
Oh, really?
Oh, it's a
Really?
mirage.
Are you trying to tell me there's some magic involved here?
Maybe.
Oh, whoa. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Hey,
okay, there you go.
Consider me impressed.
Yeah, so the RBM that we did opened up the door to the Earth Temple, but because we loaded the map from the RBM, it didn't actually visually update instantly, which is why the door still looked closed, but the trigger for like entering the cutscene was still there. So now we're in the Earth Temple. That's the slingshot.
If you notice when Jim entered this temple, he actually faced the camera backwards. There's some camera manipulation there that actually makes that platform raise a little bit later because it's not loaded in because you're not looking at it.
All right, and then with these ropes right here, I'm actually cutting the rope and then jumping off the ledge so that I can skip the cutscene where the game's like, hey, look what you did with this, or look what event happened that you cut down this rope for. So it saves a little bit of time skipping those small cutscenes. Earth Temple is probably one of the more sketchy places of the run, just because there's so many ways that you can potentially die unintentionally. Like, you know, falling in lava or getting hit by an enemy or whatnot.
That Lizolfo scares me.
Yeah,
He dunks me a lot, yeah.
All right, so now we're going to be saving, and surprise, surprise, we're going to go back to the title screen. Who could have predicted that? And once again, in the lava, because dying in lava or in water or in a void is always faster than dying on the ground. And this is actually a good example of seeing that, you know, different events on Skyloft mean different things depending on what map you're on when you set those bits during back in time. So we're actually going to be doing the exact same RBM that we did last time. We're going to go to the bed, we're going to make it nighttime, and then we're going to slash the statue and open up the shed down to the lower part of Skyloft. Because inside the Earth Temple, that flag also means something completely different, with whatever like event number it's tied to. So since we're going to be doing the exact same thing, we can read a donation or two.
Absolutely. We have a question donation. So Sorry Anna donates $25 and says, if Link is honk, would that make Goose Goose?
Oh, no. Oh, no. What have you done?
I mean, seriously, though. Okay, we also have a $15 donation from Moby Mantella, who says, good luck and have fun, Gymnast. Much love from the Discord crew. Let's get that extended blow.
A little late, but
Yeah. Wanted to throw that in there.
Thank you.
We can pretend that he got it.
Yeah, for sure.
First try.
Retroactive clapping.
Proud of you.
Yeah.
First try. All right, so with that RBM, we won't keep this one a secret. That RBM actually raised up the platforms that you normally have to push in the pegs for by like rolling the ball around the Earth Temple. So we're actually not going to be rolling on the ball anymore now because the platforms will be up by the time we get back to them. But I do have to go out of my way to get the bombs here. And so I need to blow up this pile of rocks here. This bomb's also not going to damage me, even though I was like right in front of it. That time it was because I was in the crawl space, though. And now we get to this nice Lizalfos fight. We can skip the intro cutscene to it by shooting the Lizalfos with a slingshot to disrupt what their animation is. Okay. Refill our stamina and try a little.
Almost ran out, too.
Yeah.
This fight can get a little sketchy when they're together like that.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Okay, we're fine.
Hey, treasure.
Yeah, no lizard tail, thankfully.
Yeah, picking up on those random drops like wastes so much time.
Now we have our bombs, though. And bombs are nice because now whenever we have to do back in time, we can just, blow up a bomb in front of our face, and it'll deal damage down to 0 hearts if we have 2 or less.
It'll actually hit us this time.
Yeah, it will actually hit us this time.
We're no longer impervious.
All right, so now we have to go out and talk to this lovely Magma again. He's the one who lost his bomb bag, but he's so generous that he's going to give us the bomb bag. This is also the only time we're using up as the fastest text option for any percent. And then he's also so generous, he's going to give us 5 bombs to use, or to put into our bag, I guess. Skyward Sword has this really cool mechanic where you can actually pick up bomb flowers and add them to your bomb inventory. It's just like a really good way to be able to add more bombs to your inventory, even if there's like no bomb drop anywhere. No, wait, no, this is not an idea.
Yeah.
Oh,
Instinct.
Jim.
Yeah.
I would have tackled you. I was ready.
Slap the remote.
Jim.
Yeah, so normally here, after getting the bombs, you go through this whole like side part of the dungeon where you roll the boulder all the way around and then hit some peg and they'll raise that bridge, but the RBM skips the entire sequence.
Luckily.
All right, so now we get up to these stamina slopes. This first one has a hide area on the side here where we can refill our stamina, but the second one doesn't. So we're going to be doing this technique called stutter sprinting. And I believe the couch owes one donation, or one donator, some grunting.
I was really hoping you forgot about that.
As Link's going to be doing a bunch of grunting here in a moment.
Hey!
Much regret.
Yeah,
That was great.
The things we do for charity.
Normally, you're supposed to blow up some rocks on the side there as a rest area, but if you just like sort of tap the A button rhythmically, you can not use as much stamina to get up like, each section of the slope right there, which allows us to get up with one full stamina wheel instead of needing more than one. Also another quick boss key, which is really nice. Before our short section as Indiana Jones right here.
With good music, too.
I really like Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Something I always missed casually, and someone had to point it out to me, was how this boulder actually follows you through to the next room and becomes the boss, which I always thought was a pretty nice touch.
Yeah, so that boulder is the boss of this temple, Scaldera, which unfortunately we can't skip, much to our sadness as Skyward Sword speedrunners.
The tricycle is coming. You can feel it.
Hopefully.
I wish we had the GIF.
Shout out to the Hero Fred.
All right, so we have time for a donation or two now as we get into this boss room.
Okay, perfect. We have a $10 donation from the Terminato, or Zero, who says, "Hi, Gymnast. Nice to see you running Skyward Sword here, and thanks for doing what you do. Also, a honk, apparently." We also have a $200 donation.
Yeah, very nice.
Woo! And they say, "Excited to donate again to such a great event and see a run of Skyward Sword. Such an awesome game. Thanks." We have a $20 donation from Oxlink, who says, "Jim, what is your favorite piano song? Will you finally tell us?"
No. All right, so I refilled some of my bomb count with the bomb flowers right there, and then I took damage into that Phi trigger so that I wouldn't have to go through Link's get up animation, since I am going to want to do back in time in the near future, and I want low health for that.
Torp's proud.
Yep. If you notice him do that little slide right there, there's something called a break slide. You have to hold a specific spot on the nunchuck, and you can preserve your speed.
Also
you
known
lose all
as
your stamina.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the only person in the community calls it that.
It's not ESS for us.
That's what it is.
Yeah, interestingly enough, break sliding is also a technique that works in Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, and Skyward Sword. These games do share a lot of overlapping, like, mechanical techniques, in some regards. All right, now it's time for this guy. This fight is mostly consistent, except for the fact that during what will hopefully be the final cycle, his eye will cooperate and go into a position which I'll be able to hit with my sword. If the eye doesn't go into that position, then that's unfortunately going to add some extra cycles.
And that damage was intentional.
LCS, the damage right there that I took was intentional. Right, so now we'll run away and just bait him into opening up his mouth for another bomb. So this is where the eye stuff kind of matters. Yeah, so hopefully he comes to the center right here. Yep. All right. Oh, that's unfortunate.
So as mentioned before, that Gymnast wanted, for this boss is where Gymnast wanted to hit Scaldera with both the Skyward Strike and the Sword Slash. If he times it correctly, they'll be taken as two separate hits overlapped on top of each other, and he gets just enough damage to kill Scaldera before the next cycle starts.
Man, I think my positioning there was a little too far forward, so...
Still, good fight, though, overall.
For sure.
Yeah.
This fight's really tricky and has many different strategies people have developed over the years because he's got multiple phases and you try to do very specific amount of damage at certain times to try to like reduce the number of rounds that are in the fight.
Yeah, so now there are more bomb flowers up at the top here, which I can use to refill. Normally I'd only get 4, but because of the fact that I had to waste another bomb getting that extra cycle on Scaldera, I can actually pick up 5 without losing any time. The reason for that is because the door that's right there, which is like the exit to the boss fight, is actually like glowing and dimming on a cycle. And when you open the door will always wait until it's at the like low point of its dim cycle before it actually opens. So I'm able to collect one more bomb without it going for an extra cycle. And that can actually be used for a strategy that will save 1 second, like an hour later.
The most important second.
Yeah. If I remember to do it, that is. All right, so now that we've beaten the Earth Temple, we get the Amber Tablet, which opens up the Lanayru region. Honk is ready to go to Lanayru.
He's going to do a lot there. It's wild ambitions.
All right, so as we exit the temple here, I'm actually going to hold the Z button to skip a walking animation, which saves like 2 seconds, so I can get over to the statue over here faster. So this time, before we place in the Amber Tablet, we're actually going to take a little bit of a detour to the Thunderhead. Now, the Thunderhead is not supposed to be an area that you can access until you play the Ballad of the Goddess on Skyloft. But as you can see, there's the... you can kind of see it on screen. There's like a blue line across the screen, which indicates that the Thunderhead area is open. And you might be wondering how that happens. And the reason for that is because when we did the RBM in the Earth Temple, where we pushed the gravestone as we started our first file, that also just so happened to RBM the Thunderhead open. Due to some complexities of where the flags are placed in memory, we can't actually RBM both of those at the same time, which is pretty nice, because usually we would have had to do an extra bit of reverse bit magic to open up the Thunderhead, like in previous routes.
Traditionally, you would do this while doing like a save warp, or a bit warp, or a bit save, or something like that. And being able to combine it with the reverse bit magic is really convenient.
Jim's going to keep his altitude pretty low here. These
Skytails.
Yeah, these Skytails are terrifying. He only has 2 hearts here. If they touch him, he dies, which is really bad considering that he's going to have to die again pretty soon here. And damaging down more hearts just takes, a lot of time.
And if you notice that Fee cutscene Jim got when he came on the Skywing from the portal. Actually, you can skip that if you got Extending Blow. That cutscene doesn't play because I think it's because the Goddess Cube didn't get activated, right?
Yeah, that's correct. It's tied to Fi telling you about like the fact that Goddess Cubes exist. All right, so now Honk's got to solve this puzzle right here. Thankfully, this puzzle is like the exact same every time, so we just got to push the pedestals around in a specific way here. So we can read like a donation or two right now.
Alrighty, we have a $25 donation from Crunchy Banter, who says, "Hey Jim, been watching you for a while. Good luck on your run. Been a long-time viewer of GDQ, and I'm finally in a position where I can donate and help out. My best friend, my father, overcame I'm going to totally accidentally butcher this, esophageal cancer a few years back, so this cause means a lot to me. It is so amazing what this community does every year. I want to thank everyone that puts this awesome event together and all the runners and announcers that give up their time to entertain us. Thank you to all the donators and Prevent Cancer Foundation." Honk?
Honk.
Thought we were free.
Oh, we'll never be free.
We won't be free
No.
until this run is over.
No, not even that.
I don't think that's
no.
for the three of us.
Remember that time you wanted Lonk as the donation name, as the file name? And instead we got Honk, and now we have so much Honk.
Anything is better than Walk.
All right, so now I'm going to be saving the game and doing Back in Time again. Unfortunately, Back in Time doesn't work in this area if I just watch that cutscene of getting Ferore's Courage. So I actually have to get out of here and then use a bomb to damage it down to 0 health so that we can successfully do Back in Time. Also, nice camera getting stuck in the nook right there. So for this Back in Time, we're going to be doing something similar to when we placed the Eldin pillar on file 2, except we're going to be placing it on file 1. It's actually faster to save file 1 in Back in Time at the Lower Academy bird statue, and then use the quote-unquote early light pillar with the amber tablet to put it on our file, because it skips us having to run back out of like the goddess statue and all that. So we're going to bonk this tree, we're going to collect this rupee while file 1 is loaded, and then we're going to select file 2 to open these gates back up. And then we're going to save file 1 here. And I'll be going back to the splash screen to get rid of some lag, because lag can get pretty bad in Back in Time.
Yeah, Jim's going to try to attempt to minimize lag whenever he can. A lot of times it's just dependent on what files he has open, or sometimes the file menu in general is going to cause lag, and he wants to be on the splash screen. Even just different types of movement where your camera is can cause a lot of lag. So there's a lot of interesting movement choices that are going to be made to get through these segments as fast as possible.
For instance, if you have the file screen open and you load the Bazaar, it lags terribly. So we always back out to the title screen just like this.
All right, so we have our amber tablet loaded. Now we just need to place it in the pedestal. Once again, the pedestal rises because of the properties that we have on file 3. Also, Link's just going to kind of motion in a non-existent tablet, the pedestal right there. It's still going to play the right cutscene, but it just looks kind of funny. So now here's the cutscene. Once again, we have the same timing where right after the camera change of the light pillar forming, we want to start our file. And now the Eldin pillar, or excuse me, the Lanayru pillar is on file 1. We're actually not going to go to the Lanayru pillar quite yet. We're actually going to make a detour back to the Faron Woods. Because now that we got Ferore's Courage, we can actually go and get into the Faron Silent Realm. And you're probably thinking like, well, wait a minute. You don't have the harp yet. How are you going to, open up the Faron Silent Realm? Because you can't play the instrument. And the answer to that is, if you remember what we did earlier in the run, where we cut the logs in Back in Time as we loaded our file as it was in Faron Woods, doing that action actually loaded in the Faron trial into the Faron region so that we can actually go to it now. But the problem, as I said earlier, is that the map isn't in the correct state to load the trial, and the trigger for loading the map in the correct state is obtaining the Ferore's Courage song. So we're not going to play the song, but we just need it for the trial to load in at all. So now Fi's going to be like, hey, I think I sense a trial here.
Oh, wow.
So for those of you familiar with Skyward Sword, you might be a little confused now. This isn't the order that a lot of people are used to, even with seeing people do the safe route. Well, I think Gymnast has a little bit of explaining to do on that one.
Yeah, so, You know, I woke up today in the GDQ hotel here in Florida. It was a nice day. I got some good sleep, and then I, of course, like every gamer, I go to check my Discord notifications. And in one of my DMs, I see a message from Azer67, who is a glitch hunter and router for Skyward Sword, and he says, Jim, I think I have an idea for a route change for any percent on the day of your GDQ run. And I'm like, okay.
12 hours before it.
Let's see what we can do here. So this route is different from the one that you would normally see in a, like any other Skyward Sword any percent speedrun out there, like on the internet or on YouTube.
World premiere.
First time ever seen. Right here, live.
And based on our rough timings, this route should save about 15 to 20 seconds. We haven't done any hard timings for it, so it's hard to say precisely, but it should save a little bit of time at the very least.
When we say should, that could be taken with a very big grain of salt. Not necessarily in this case, just whenever a speedrunner says, this should save time.
Right. And I did run through this route twice and can confirm that it does work. So we're not trying this blind.
If it ends up faster, I'm going to be very sad. Harp cancel's gone. Harp cancel's fun.
All right. So now that we're in the Faron Silent realm, we essentially want to go around and collect these 15 tiers as fast as we possibly can. I wasn't supposed to jump into the waking water there, but it's not a big issue because we can just collect the tier and have the trial go back to its silent state.
Normally you want to go to the viewing platform first, but Jim skipped that to, in order to do a little bit faster route for collecting these tiers by just running straight up to one of the Guardians and just picking up the tier right out of him. Something that he's going to be really careful to do is he doesn't want to collect any of the white items. It's going to start a cutscene because the little green light that's around the tiers actually goes away over time. It's meant to help new players find where these objects are, but Jim knows where they are. He doesn't need that anymore. So he's going to try to avoid that and get through the area as fast as possible, which you'll see in some cases isn't exactly easy.
We actually used to use that little light fruit cutscene as a stamina refill on the old route when we'd run up there, and the reason we don't do that anymore is just it's a difference in the cycle, and that little one that was raising and closing with the waking water.
Also, like the time save from the stamina is pretty small compared to the length of the cutscene.
Yeah, because the cutscene, well, it's actually two separate parts. First, it gives you text. It's like, hey, look, this is a light fruit. And then it shows you like the beacons actually forming up on the tiers. So thankfully in this trial, it's actually not too hard to avoid all of them. When we get to the Eldin trial, though, those tiers, or excuse me, those light fruit in the Eldin trial are actually a little tricky to avoid, but hopefully we'll be able to do that.
And a couple spots is actually really scary. It's hard to tell whether or not you're going to hit one.
Right, so this is the last tier. Conveniently, we're right next to starting point here. So now we can get the Water Dragon scale.
I always enjoyed these like silent rooms casually. It was like really fun, like routing it, you know, in a casual play. You know, trying to find a route that finished in time.
Or when you didn't know where the last tier was and time ran out.
Ultimate stress
Yeah,
test.
doom is coming.
All right, so now we got the Water Dragon scale. In reality, the Water Dragon scale is only required for one single use in this entire run. We use it in any place where we can. But the only place the Water Dragon scale is required is for jumping up to the entrance of the Ancient Cistern. If we could somehow get to the entrance of the Ancient Cistern without collecting the Water Dragon scale, then we would have skipped having to do this trial and skipped getting Ferori's Courage altogether, because we only get Ferori's Courage so we can get to this trial to get the Water Dragon scale. Also, I was supposed to fly to the sky there.
It's only a matter of time before
Safety
they get out.
Safety save, yeah.
Safety save.
Be safe.
In the route that I was planning on doing, we do save here normally, so muscle memory.
Plans never work out.
True. All right, so now we're going to fly to the Lanayru region, though.
You know what they say about marathons? Do something new.
Hey, Jim, since you're going to Lanayru, I really don't like it that much. Can you try to speed up?
Yeah, Jim, I hate sand.
I really...
Yeah,
oh,
I mean, well,
it's
I know.
coarse and it gets everywhere.
Yeah, that's true. I think you guys won't have to deal with it for long. I think we'll be okay.
Oh, that's good. Are you just really fast?
Well, no, actually, there's this really nice man who we can go meet, and he's going to tell us some secrets about the area.
Oh, really? That's cool.
Yeah.
Oh.
He's a little scary, though, so don't get spooked by him when you go meet him.
Oh, okay.
He's really the sweetest, most sensitive guy.
Don't really. I'm really tough. I don't get scared easily.
All right, yeah, so now we've entered into the Lanayru region. And of course, first thing we're going to do is after we skip this cutscene, we're going to go over to this statue and we're going to save. And then immediately after this, we're going to die and we're going to do back in time again. So obviously with our bombs now, that's not a bomb.
Nice bombs.
Yeah, but with our bombs now, it becomes much faster to generally perform back in time. And for those of you at home who might have joined us late, when I do back in time, I'm actually pressing the reset button on the Wii console itself to perform back in time because it's faster than going into the menu to do so.
We had a conversation a few hours ago about how many younger viewers may never have owned a console that has a reset button on it.
Terrifying. Hello. Where are you?
Scary.
Yeah, it's going away. We're getting old.
All right, so I collected that stamina fruit in Back in Time with file 1 loaded. This actually loads in the water dragon scale into Back in Time, so now I can get over to this side of Skyloft by just jumping out of the water like this.
It looks so slick.
When you get it and don't bonk, it's so nice.
That's one of the things in this route that saves... in this new route that saves time. Normally in the old route, you would have to come here without the water dragon scale at least one time, and then you would only have it subsequently.
All right, now we're going to meet this...
Oh, geez. Oh, man.
I don't know. He's... Uh-oh, he noticed we're here.
Oh.
Jim, watch out on the title screen.
Would you like to view the WeMotion Plus tutorial?
Oh, thank you, Jim. Oh, oh no.
He's back. All right.
Oh.
Oh, no, yeah, he's scared.
Oh.
All right, so for this reverse bit magic, we're going to be talking to this lovely demon man, Betro. This is a reverse bit magic that's essentially going to let us skip pretty much all of Lanayru, because once we finish his dialogue and start our file, he's actually going to give us the flag for the bird statue that's in the Temple of Time in the Lanayru Desert. Now, if you remember, well, first, I'm actually going to show you a hidden rupee. Wow.
Probably didn't know that was there.
Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, the Temple of Time statue, you're only supposed to be able to access it after you go through Lanayru and beat the Lanayru mining facility. Because it's supposed to be like an easy checkpoint for you to like save or go back to the sky after you get the harp. But because we have it now, we can simply just exit out of Lanayru, go back in, fly to that bird statue, and then we can get to the backside entrance of the Lanayru mining facility. And the great thing about that is that we can just go in and out of the Lanayru mining facility exit, and we can start the harp cutscene. So this essentially skips the entire first part of Lanayru with like exploring the general area and going through the entire Lanayru mining facility.
It's also that moment where he turned around and shot that eye to get the rupee out. That was important, somewhat more technical. When you do the reverse back in time magic, it like sets your flag in the current area, but it doesn't actually commit it to that save data. And previously in like Eldin, that automatically happens on its own, but in this area, it does not. So Jim did anything that would set any of the flags, such as those rupees that are one time only.
Okay.
All right, so right there I did a side hop to skip a Fi cutscene, and then I instantly died for more back in time. So that side hop out of the cutscene saves about 15 seconds.
It's the same thing we would do at the beginning of the game on the different route.
Also, back in time here is kind of precise. I might have missed it. Oh, no.
Oh, you're good.
Yeah. For some reason, back in time there, you only have like 2 frames to do it or something. It's kind of strange. All right, so in addition to giving us the ability to fly to the Temple of Time statue that we just flew to, Betro also gave us the ability to collect gratitude crystals on file 1. So we're going to go to Kukil's house over here, and because we activated that part of the Betrow quest, Kukil's mother is actually going to give us 5 gratitude crystals for our good work.
Is that like you say her name?
I feel like giving gifts of gratitude is really just on point for this event.
Yeah, it really is.
I didn't know her name until right now, honestly.
I've just seen it written. I've never heard anybody say that.
All right, so here's her mother. So she's going to give us some gratitude crystals, and we'll be using reverse bit magic on these gratitude crystals so that we can get them on our file 1 without actually having to get them. This is mainly because if we want to activate the gratitude crystal event there, we have to we have to sleep to daytime in the bed, which would restore our health, but we don't want our health to be restored right now. All right, so now we're actually going to go off to Eldin, which is not normally where you're supposed to go next after you get the harp. Normally you're supposed to go to the Sealed Temple, learn how to play the harp with Impa, and then she'll give you the Ballad of the Goddess, and the Gate of Time will raise up. We will be raising the Gate of Time, but just not quite yet. We're going to instead make a trip back to go see the nice man that we just met a few moments ago. So similar to how we used reverse bit magic to open up the Faron trial in the Faron region, this time we're going to use reverse bit magic to open up the Eldin trial in the Eldin region. And this is important because this is what allows us to completely skip what would normally be the second trip to the Lanayru region, where you'd go to the Sand Sea and beat the Sand Ship. Because the only reason we ever beat the Sand Ship was to get the song Din's Power and be able to open up the trial gate here. So it's actually kind of ironic that we're using reverse bit magic to open up all these trial gates, because it means that we never actually end up using the harp, despite the fact that we get it. We basically just get it to set like correct game states and stuff. And so once again, I need to collect this stamina fruit with file 1. This loads in the water dragon scale so I can get across the river. Then check the statue with file 3 having been my last selected file. Jump across here.
Still sick.
Speaking of not using the harp, that's actually a good thing.
Yeah.
The harp is... A lot of people complain about Skyward Sword's motion controls. Some think it's bad, some think it's good. Something that's pretty objectively awful is the harp. It just doesn't function properly. And trying to play the songs that you're supposed to play throughout the run like properly takes a lot of practice.
All right, so this time we're RBMing the reward that we get for giving Betrow 5 gratitude crystals, which is why we collected 5 in the first place. Because for every reward that Betrow gives you, that sets another flag in the Skyloft region that we can use for reverse bit magic. And right now, because this is the Eldin region, we can just reload the area and we have our trial gate.
Hey.
I wish you luck on this one.
Opening this trial gate was just such a humongous skill. Because, I mean, the whole point of going to Sand Sea was to open that gate.
The less sand, the better. For sure.
And that also means that we're going to be skipping both the bow and the clawshot items. We will not be getting them.
There will not be an arrow in sight in this run.
That's what you think. But now it's time for the Eldin Silent Realm. The Eldin one is significantly harder to do correctly compared to the Faron one. Partially because of the location of the light fruit, which get in our way quite a bit, but also because there's just a lot of technical stuff to do in this trial.
Yeah, there's a lot of cycles in this trial, so Jim's just trying to go as fast as possible to make sure to get all the fast cycles. But it also means taking a lot of tight corners and a lot of risk.
Not to mention that this trial has more guardians and more chances to activate them than other trials do. And also just has, unlike Faron, where really the only other hazard was the poisoned water. In this trial, you have lava everywhere, which also makes you void out.
And when you void out, you lose time on the cycles and everything changes.
Mm-hmm. This light fruit is particularly annoying because I want to get around it on this side of the ledge so I can side hop down here to that rock or that platform.
That's nowhere near the worst one in this section yet.
And that one right there, the entrance to the Bone Bridge. And then this one right here.
They really want you to get some light fruits.
One of the really nice things about these trials, though, in the speedrun is that there is no RNG generally. So, like, as long as you play well, it'll end up well.
Yeah.
It's all skill.
This tier is a little interesting. We want to swing on the rope. Ooh. Am I too far back? Yeah.
It's like it.
Why did I jump off the rope? I should have just stopped and climbed up.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Our favorite Wind Waker mechanic.
There we go. There it is. Alright. More light fruit in our way.
We had a small preview of one of the worst ones.
Yeah, the one in front of this crawl space is pretty bad. And then hopefully we can get on the rope bridge out here.
Hardest trick. Hardest trick.
Possible. It still is. I've never seen it done correctly.
It's very common to see people not realize that they've grabbed onto the rope instead of walking on it, and they'll press A and just void out there in the lava.
If we have, I'm sure we probably have some donations we can read now.
I have lots of donations. We have a $20 donation from Mr. Small, who says, been watching GDQ for most of the 10 years it's been running. I often use it as an example in my classes for how you can make a difference with whatever your passion is. Gymnast is one of my favorite runners, and I think he does an amazing job explaining his run as he goes. Always impressed.
Oh, thank you.
Dude, I completely agree. We also have a $15 donation from Pluffy, who says, I'm so excited to be here at my first GDQ to watch Jim run Skyward Sword in person. Yeah! This is the run I've been looking forward to the most. Jim, thank you for always being so welcoming on your streams and explaining things so well to your viewers. You've inspired me to try speedrunning someday. Good luck tonight.
Thank you.
You want another one?
Yeah, I can do one more.
Okay. We have a $25 donation from Amertzi, who says, honk! Okay. Hello, Jim and all at AGDQ. I'm so excited for this run. I'm enjoying it while working on some last-minute cosplay. Ooh. Speaking of which, Groose cosplay win. Eyes emoji.
Jim. That's all you, man.
Best of luck to you. We're all rooting for you.
Thank you. All right, so almost done with this trial. I'm just got to avoid the waking water while getting this second to last tier. And we go on a nice slide down the slope. It's actually kind of nice that we get to at least do like Eldin in the Silent Realm, because we obviously skipped like most of it when we RBM'd open the Earth Temple door earlier.
Yeah, this area has a lot of interesting movement. That's kind of the downside that a lot of people don't see when new tricks are discovered and skips are found. A lot of times, just as many really cool technical areas are axed from a run as, you know, boring side quests.
Like the Lanayru Silent Realm was really fun. I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah.
Same thing with Skyloft.
Yeah, Skyloft was definitely my favorite.
That one was way stressful because you had to run across the entire lake.
Yeah, that was like the Jesus moment.
Walking on water.
Yeah.
All right, so now we have the Fire Shield Earrings, and the Fire Shield Earrings will grant us access into the Volcano Summit area. The entire reason to get the Fire Shield Earrings is to access that area. And thankfully, there's a bit of a shortcut we can take there. We can blow up this rock right here, and then we can access the wind vent, which takes us up near where the entrance to the Volcano Summit is. Unfortunately, if we try to enter the Volcano Summit early without the Fire Shield Earrings, Fi is going to come up and be like, no, sorry, go back. So,
You also catch on fire.
yeah. Well, I mean, we can get around the being caught on fire, though, with a Guardian Potion in this game. Also, I need to die into this loading zone. Or not die, but take damage. Because I'm going to do Back in Time again. All right, so this first reverse bit magic that we'll be doing in the Volcano Summit area, it's going to be the same one that we used to open up the Ghirahim boss door without having to fight Ghirahim near like the half-hour point in the run. So it's going to be, we're going to save file 3 to load in the cutscene trigger for the Sheikah Stone, and then we're going to start our file and run into the trigger just as that happens. I also need to remember to copy file 1 to file 3 here. Once again, I can't copy a file if I have control of Link because pressing the plus button will crash the game. Honk this tree with file 2.
That's $10.
That's not correct. Nice. Right, there we go.
There it is.
All right. I don't know why that happens. Like sometimes if you go a frame too early, it'll like do the opposite option.
It doesn't help that it's lagging a lot, so it's hard to get the inputs in correctly.
Especially with the lag, you have to be careful to not open file 1 too fast there. You can actually end up overwriting it if you're really, to be fair, negligent about it and just open it without paying attention.
And if you notice, it was actually the same RBM you did earlier. It's the same flag. It's just applied in a different area. It does something else.
So Jim, normally you have to commit RBM files or RBM actions onto whatever file you're using. Jim committed that flag by just entering the waterfall area and leaving. For whatever reason.
Oh, interesting.
Got him.
Not like I have 99 of everything already.
So, for whatever reason, that it's a scene change, right? When you go into the waterfall area.
Yeah, for some reason the game keeps track of whether or not you've entered that area for the first time.
Yeah, it's really convenient.
Okay, so this time, Back in Time, we're going to be doing something a little different than what we've done previously with our escapades on the title screen. All of the times that we've done Back in Time in this run, we've been confined to the Skyloft map. But we can actually get to other maps in Back in Time using this very specific file setup that we have on file 2. So I'm going to save file 2 with this bird statue. This is going to load in the ability to jump on my Loftwing in Back in Time. So with this, I'll be able to access the sky with Back in Time. Now, most states of the sky will actually crash in Back in Time, but this specific file setup that we have on file 2 will allow us to successfully load into the sky. And this is where Zelda's going to once again teach us how to use the Loftwing as we fly over here. You might notice that there's the Eldin pillar in the background. Normally, you're obviously not supposed to have the Eldin pillar open while you do the Loftwing tutorial. But because we have it open on file 2, the game loads it in here in the sky during the Loftwing tutorial. And the bounds of the Loftwing tutorial just so happen to barely encompass the Eldin pillar here, so we can jump into the Eldin pillar during Back in Time. And I have to be sure I select file 3 here as I load into the next area, or at least have it be the last file that I selected so that its data is loaded instead.
With the files that Jim selected, he actually can't dive off of his Loftwing there. He has to force fall off of his Loftwing if you're too close to one of the pillar entrances. Coming into this section now, it's going to be really important for him to make sure that he can dive off of his Loftwing.
This is
Also, this is not Eldin, if anyone noticed.
Yeah.
That's because with that specific state of the game we had, the game believes that we were jumping into a light pillar for the very first time. And regardless of which light pillar you jump into, if it's your first time, it'll always force you into Faron, no matter what. All right. But now we actually exited back out to the sky, and because of this, I can now successfully jump off my Loftwing if I so wish to do so. Now, the bounds of the Loftwing tutorial are actually only confined to the Loftwing. They're not confined to Link. So what we're going to do here is we're going to fly really high up, and then I'm going to dive all the way over to the Lumpy Pumpkin, which is a little ways across the map. So we'll be diving here for a good, 30 seconds or so. I need to make sure that I don't stay on the splash screen of the title for too long. Otherwise, I'll end up getting, the title screen lore video, which will, just kick me out of Back in Time entirely.
He does use the splash screen, though, because he has a higher range of vision. He doesn't have the bars on the top and bottom of the screen. Makes it a lot easier to see the Lumpy Pumpkin.
All right.
He also doesn't want to get rid of all the text here, because if the tutorial finishes...
And splat.
Nice.
10 out of 10 landing.
Yeah, thank you.
But yeah, he also fails this if the tutorial finishes, so he wants to make sure to manage the text boxes at the bottom.
Okay, so now we're in the Lumpy Pumpkin, and we're going to go make it nighttime. And we want to make it nighttime because the Lumpy Pumpkin has some gratitude crystals that are near and around it. And we're going to be picking up one of those gratitude crystals as I start file 1 so that we can get the flag for that specific gratitude crystal in the Volcano Summit region.
And funny enough, you're not on the normal Skyloft, you're not able to load into back in time on file 1 here, but specifically here you're able to for some reason, and that's kind of relying on why this trick works.
All right, so you heard the little jingle for collecting the gratitude crystal. So now we can make our way out to commit that flag that we set, because things don't just get auto-committed like they do in the regular Eldin region. To commit this, I'm going to show you a fairy you didn't know existed. There's just a fairy in that waterfall if you bonk it.
We didn't collect it this time.
Yeah, actually use a different flag this time, because before just entering this area counted as 1, but now that flag's set permanently, so you have to set something else to commit.
Skyward Sword, all permanent flags. Oh, when's it happen?
Oh no.
The true 100%.
Okay, so now that we've entered this area, we can finally explain what those 2 RBMs that we did will do. But first, Fi's going to give us like an invisible dowsing option. Hooray. So we only have 1 bottle and 1 bottle full of water, so we can only water this frog right now. But if you see at the back right there, that frog that's next is actually already watered, because the first RBM we did with the Sheikah Stone cutscene took away the flames from this part of the Volcano Summit. And there's also no flames in front of the Fire Sanctuary right here, because the second RBM we did took out the flames from in front of the Fire Sanctuary. Interestingly enough, though, the ones that are in front of the Fire Sanctuary will only be gone for 1 load of the map. Now, whenever we reload the map, the flames will actually be back because of some properties of how those flames are actually triggered in the first place.
Yeah, you'll notice that the second frog is actually, its eyes are blue, as if he poured water on it, but the big frog is still red.
We had to actually route around that. It was pretty unfortunate.
Yeah. But now we're in the Fire Sanctuary, and casually the Fire Sanctuary is not the 3rd dungeon, it's actually the 6th dungeon, so it's a pretty big sequence break being able to get to the Fire Sanctuary early like this. And the Fire Sanctuary is also one of the weirdest dungeons in the run. Now that we've entered into the Fire Sanctuary, I'm going to do 4 individual RBMs, and then I'm going to leave and come back later. So this first RBM is I'm going to be checking the bird statue right there. Again, we want to check it as the file fades out. And then I'm going to show you another rupee you didn't know existed.
Don't feel bad. None of us knew it.
We didn't know it existed either, yeah.
There's so many of these flags that were documented through all this research were found by going through YouTube videos, looking at casual players and stuff like that.
Going through every area of the run, just slingshotting random things.
Yeah, so these 4 RBMs that we're doing are actually all pretty short RBMs. You saw that we just did one where we checked the Bazaar statue, which was pretty short. We're also going to be checking the other 2 statues on Skyloft, the ones that are on this part of the map. And then we'll also be collecting a gratitude crystal that's in this house right here. Thankfully, this gratitude crystal is indoors, so we can be able to collect it without having to do a special file setup. If it was outdoors, we'd have to do an additional RBM on our second file so that it could collect gratitude crystals as well. Nice. So file 1, just run into the crystal. And then the red rupee that we revealed last time has a twin on the other side, so there's that one. So all of these RBMs that we're doing, with these 4 RBMs, we're obviously setting 4 different flags in the Fire Sanctuary. One of those flags is the ability to fly from the sky. Also, I kind of messed up back in time with it, but that's not a big deal. The ability to fly from the sky to the overworld bird statue that's in the Fire Sanctuary, right? Because that statue is one that you can access from the overworlds. It's the only dungeon statue that's like that. So that's one of the RBMs that we're doing. Another one is that we're rising up an iron bar, or an iron gate, that normally would block you from being able to get to the boss key room early. But if we make the gate rise up with RBM, then we can get to the boss key room early. And then the final two that we'll do right here with the last two statues that we have, these will be used so that the iron bars which block the boss key in the boss key room will be open when we go there. So this one right here, we're going to bonk file 1 with file 1, or excuse me, bonk the tree with file 1 this time.
Yes, we're going to bonk file 1.
Yeah.
$10.
Okay, I don't think that actually committed, so I have to do that again. I was in probably the wrong position, unfortunately.
I think you were a little too far to the right.
Yeah. But it's okay, because it's short, so try again.
If you're unsure in Fire Sanctuary, if you hit a flag, you should just redo. Obviously, like if you're going for a PB and you don't really care and you're just going to reset anyway. But in a run like this where Jim wants to finish, it's best to just redo the RBM. Make sure you don't commit the flag on the actual map, because you only have a finite number of flags that you can commit in that room. So Jim doesn't want to waste a commit on like a permanent flag on something that he doesn't know is going to work or not.
Right.
That one should have been fine.
Yeah, that was fine. And then this time for our commit, we're going to shoot down this water pod, because this cutscene right here sets a flag, because the game only wants you to watch the cutscene once. And then for our final RBM, we'll be going all the way up to the Upper Academy bird statue on Skyloft. Interesting thing about Back in Time, it almost seems to have ended up working out that Back in Time might have been entirely useless in this game, because when you fall down in Back in Time, the game plays, or it tries to play the Skyloft cutscene where you get rescued by, a graduated knight from the Knight Academy, and they place you down back on one of these boardwalks. But in pretty much every other area of the game that isn't like a sky area, if you start on a map and you just void out, you will actually end up voiding out in an infinite loop from where you started, which, if that happened on Skyloft, we would not be able to use Back in Time for literally anything, and this run would be 6 hours or something. Alright, so now start file 1, check this statue, and we're good. So yeah, it's very convenient that the developers decided to add in that ability for the knights to come rescue you. So now we're going to be digging up this ferry as a scene flag change, because I want to catch it in this bottle.
Also, the ferry is really important, yeah.
Okay, now I'm going to be doing a specific setup right here using side hops and backflips. I want to be in a very precise position when I save at this statue right here, right? So we're not going to be doing much in the Fire Sanctuary for the next little bit. I'm actually going to go to the Ancient Cistern dungeon next, because we do need to beat that dungeon, or else a later part of the game is unfortunately going to crash.
If you notice when he did that setup, after his second backflip, he actually C-upped. The reason he does that is because the positioning is so specific that after Link does a backflip, he normally steps forward a little bit, and when you do that, he doesn't. It's so specific that he can't step forward or it won't work.
I really like that you call it C up, because it's just C. And that just shows how OOT that setup was, that we had to use OOT terms.
When in doubt, Ocarina of Time.
I didn't call it ESS earlier, but I take respect with that.
We try to avoid it.
All right, so we're saving file 2 again here at the Bazaar statue. This is going to be another instance where we go to Faron in Back in Time, except this time we're going to actually go into Faron, not just go there and then leave to go back to the sky. Because we can actually get to the entrance of the Ancient Cistern while in Back in Time, which is going to prove to be useful. There we go. That looked weird, but okay.
It worked.
Another Loftwing tutorial here from Zelda for us. Unfortunately, Zelda does not say honk during these Loftwing tutorials, because in Back in Time, whenever a character tries to say your name in text, the length of Link's file name in Back in Time is actually 0 characters long, so the game just doesn't display anything when it should be there. So that's why sometimes there's a random comma punctuation mark or something, or a random exclamation point.
That's something that's unique in this game. Back in Time in Twilight Princess, it just defaults the file name back to Link. So if you, say, hypothetically, could do something like this where a character would be talking to you and back in time they would say your name.
TP will get there eventually, Zaylu. I promise.
It won't.
I promise.
I've lost hope. I'm sad.
Hey man, 2019 's still not. Oh.
The year of Zelda's done.
Ocarina of Time says otherwise.
So I need to avoid these Teku Babas. And then by selecting file 2, I can get this log to magically come down here. And then I need to load file 2 specifically when going into this next area. So now we can travel through the behind the temple area and back in time. We're not going to push this log all the way forward because that would cause a small cutscene. But instead, what we can do is we can jump slash up on the top and then pull up to this ledge right here.
That's actually really hard.
Yeah.
All right, now we kind of have to be a little careful here because there's lots of bad stuff that can happen in Faron while you're in back in time.
In this one small area, Jim can lose time from crashing, starting a cutscene he doesn't want to start, lag. Pretty much anything that can go bad and back in time can happen right here.
All right, so I need to select file 2, otherwise a cutscene's going to start. That's going to crash the game. Yeah. Now, you might notice that the waterfall that normally blocks the ancient cistern isn't here. That's because we loaded in this area in a state where the waterfall doesn't exist yet. But because I can load my water dragon scale into back in time, I can now jump up into the ancient cistern, and we can enter into it.
My swim controls are bad enough. You're going to be swimming while I'm back in time.
Now, Link's not going to spawn at the entrance to the ancient cistern.
Yeah.
I have to go back to file 1 now. Unfortunately, right there, my position with the setup that I used in the Fire Sanctuary was a bit off. Because what happened when we entered the ancient cistern is Link actually took the coordinates he had in the Fire Sanctuary and applied them to the ancient cistern when he entered it from back in time as I started file 1.
Jim had to reset the game there because if he dies in Ancient Cistern, the game doesn't have his spawn point set in Ancient Cistern. His spawn point is still set in Fire Sanctuary. So he doesn't have his fairy anymore. And you need the fairy to survive that trick, so he just can't really do anything without resetting his file.
All right, so since we're going to be doing like the exact same thing again, we have lots of time for donations.
Oh, yeah.
You get comfy.
Okay, great. I feel like you did that just for our benefit. Okay, we have a $25 donation from Mittens MD, who says, had to donate during a run of my favorite franchises. Legend of Zelda games mean so much to me, and it always amazes me how quickly these games can be beaten. Good luck, Gymnast, and don't forget to honk. We also have a $100 donation from Raucus. Thank you so much for the support. Who says, congrats, GDQ, on a decade of speedrunning. Though I do fear for everyone's safety as Jim is not using a wrist strap with his Wiimote.
Oh, no. The cardinal sin.
I've been called out.
Best of luck to all the runners.
It'd be really funny if B, could somehow know if you were wearing your wrist strap. And she was like, put it on.
Yeah, the game is like, you might break your TV. Please put on the wrist strap.
Got some more time?
Oh, yeah.
All right. We have another $100 donation. I know. This is from Alyssa Rosette, who says, good luck on the run, Jim. Here's hoping you bring the final boss a swift demise.
Just for you, Zaylu.
I know.
Just for you.
Thanks, Melissa. I appreciate it.
How could I donate?
Love puns.
Yes.
Love them.
Little does Zaylu know your
Alyssa
name
also
is-
said, how could I donate without a delightful pun? Much love to you all at this wonderful event. There's a $10 donation from Piece of Hannah 238 who says, Zelda hype? Attended my first GDQ last year at AGDQ 2019. So insanely glad to be back and surrounded by all these good vibes. Happy New Year, everyone. Drink water and have a great week.
Vibe check.
Oh, no. Take the controller.
We also have a $20 donation from Zelda Teacher who says, homesick with the flu, but gives me more time to watch the stream. I hope you feel better. My mom has survived cancer 5 times as of this September. Had to donate to this great cause during a Zelda game. That's really amazing. We also have a $5 donation from Saguaro Space. It's so cool to see how much this run has progressed since the last GDQ. Props to Jim for doing such an awesome job breaking this game. Let's start a $5 train to celebrate. Hype!
Hype!
We have a $20 donation from Thunderhawk. Oh gosh, it's Thunderhawk. That's complicated. Who says wanted to donate during Jim's run because he's great, and I've never played Skyward Sword before. I've heard it's the quote bad Zelda, and I'm excited for him to disprove that.
Oh, oops, waterfall's there. Oh, actually, no, I'm not going through that. That's gonna trigger.
Yeah, I was like, that's not a good idea.
Yeah.
So with the donation comments, now I love Jim. I love this man, but it's important to give, like shout outs to all of the people who worked together to break this game. Like while he did find reverse bit warps, it took a community effort to get this game down as far as it got in less than a year, in just a few months actually.
Okay, let's try this again. Hopefully our positioning is just correct this time so I don't accidentally clip into the upper hallway there. Okay.
Hey!
We're about to make Torp happy.
Yeah, so normally this purple gunk slows you down, but you can kind of swim through it a little faster by doing what's known as a break slide again. And here's the boss key. Not normally supposed to be able to get this right as you enter the dungeon, but this will have some nice effects for us, since the statue that's normally in the middle of the dungeon now is going to try to come down and crush us. And that's going to change its level to be one lower than it normally should be when you enter the dungeon. Now, to get out of here, I'm actually going to need to climb up the white rope that leads to like the upper half of the cistern, but the white rope isn't loaded right now, so I need to go into this room and then go back out to reload it. And this room's a little cool because first this door just falls down and locks us in, and then it opens back up again. Also, here's the mini-boss. He's coming down here. We're not going to fight him, though.
He was a little bit late.
Yeah.
So coming up here, Jim's going to do a technique called a high flip. After you backflip, oh, nice job.
First frame.
Thank you.
After you backflip, the first frame after you land, or after you slide up, excuse me, the first frame after you land, Gymnast can do a really high flip and actually get up there. So he is playing on the Japanese version of the game, which is mostly played on for text, but for the English players among us, the 1.0 version of the English disc actually has an exclusive glitch called Ancient Cistern Clip, which used to be its one saving grace, the one thing that it had over Japanese. But now with the reverse bit warp,
It doesn't really matter.
It doesn't really matter. It's like, it's like a 7-second time save over Japanese.
No, like 30 seconds.
30 seconds,
Yeah.
which doesn't help the minutes of time lost from the text.
So shout outs to Indie Kenobi for running English.
Running 100% on English.
Oof.
All right, so now that we're up here in the proper entrance to the Ancient Cistern, we're going to be going through to get this small key over here. It is possible to use reverse bit magic to skip this small key, but that's unfortunately slower. Also, that bonk is not important at all.
It was important for charity.
Yeah, extra $10.
Yeah, it's possible to skip that little flipping cutscene. You like land right between the lily pads.
And then this door lock is the same combination each time, so we don't actually have to go look at what it is, which is nice. Okay. Get back up on these lily pads. I need to get up here and then flip over that one lily pad that's blocking the water tunnel down here, where we hopefully don't die. This tunnel has been known to not be very nice sometimes. We don't need that red rupee, so.
We used to. Back in the tent today.
Hey.
All right.
Tear goes out.
Yeah, running out of air in the water is a really fast way to destroy your health.
Speaking of water, tears for Tattoos. Rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
We'll miss you.
Miss is a strong word.
I'll miss it.
I miss the song.
All right, so you'll notice that now the small key graphic on the left side of the screen is actually over the boss key graphic when we actually have control of Link here. Because the game never expects you to have both of those at the same time.
We just have a small boss key.
All right, so now I'm going to go over here and I'm going to save. This is actually just for safety. Because if I die while like going to get the whip or fighting the boss, I will end up back in the Fire Sanctuary, which is not where we want to be right now, because I'd like to beat the Ancient Cistern. Oh, nice.
Interesting. Very slippery.
That's a brawl mechanic.
It's a brawl mechanic.
He tripped.
All right, so because the statue is one level lower than it normally is, this cutscene doesn't quite look correct. So who's ready to go through the ceiling?
Oh.
And then we see nothing.
So beautiful.
That's a nice ceiling.
Yeah. We're also going to see right here that Link's grip strength is really strong, as he's going to fall like 30 meters and grab himself with his hands.
He does a lot of pull-ups.
Yeah. And we needed the small key because the lock is on the other side of this door, but we still need the small key to open it. Now we can get the whip. So as we use the whip to get ourselves up to where the boss door is located, we can have time for a donation or two.
Sure thing. We have a $100 donation. Woo! This is from VG, who says, "Hey, Jim, you may want to pick up the pace a bit. You're over an hour into the run and you're still on the title screen."
Oh, yeah.
This was from a few minutes ago. All jokes aside, best of luck, and thanks to everyone who makes GDQ possible. We also have a $5 donation from Bad Guy Leviathan, who says, "Yeah." I'm not good at Link voices.
Don't make us do it again, please.
Okay. Well, we have a $25 donation from Venik, who says, "Love from the Korean task community." You got this, Jim.
So,
Thank you, Venik.
I guess quick story about that.
Okay.
Venik's a trooper. He is the hero that Zelda does not deserve. A few years ago, we found out that there was a Korean version of this game, and we spent time looking for ISOs, looking for Let's Plays to figure out if the text was faster than Japanese. It was a lot of effort, and he's a trooper. He's a good sport about it.
Yeah, unfortunately, Korean is not faster than Japanese.
It's only a couple seconds slower. It's cool.
Yeah, it loses a couple seconds here and there, unfortunately. Anyway, now we get to this guy that we skipped last time. He's not very happy that we did that, so he's going to send up a bigger foe against us this time and make sure the door is locked.
He triple checked.
He's just banging on the door.
All right, so this is Koloktos. And strategy for this fight is actually pretty interesting once we get rid of all of his arms. So his arms move kind of slowly. We can just kind of move from side to side and get out of their way. Right here, I hope that he gives me his arm attack quickly. Okay. The other attack that he has will not make him vulnerable in time. And right here, I can place down 2 bombs and then make them both explode. And in this situation, both of the bombs individually will deal damage to Koloktos' weak spot. So combined, the bombs actually did enough damage to make that phase of the fight a 1 cycle instead of what would have normally been a 2 cycle.
And if you notice, he whipped his center right there, and that actually manipulates his RNG to make it where he gives a slower attack so you can place the bombs.
Yeah. Now it's time for this phase.
Oh.
All right, so this phase, you're supposed to use these swords to, knock off Koloktos' limbs. So we're first going to use it to get rid of his legs, and then we'll use it to make his weak spot visible. But from here, we're actually going to use the super-powered Skyward Strike in hero mode to just completely decimate the boss.
Yeah, this fight used to be really long in the speedrun, and now it's one of the shortest.
Yeah, while it's a great casual boss, it's pretty exciting. In a speedrun, when you're just doing the same as the casual strat, it was really boring for a long time.
Yeah, but because the Skyward Strike is overpowered in hero mode, you can use that overpowered damage to get rid of the second phase in just 2 Skyward Strikes. I guess the developers just forgot about that. Also getting our first and only heart container of the run. Yeah, shoutouts for staying alive.
There is another heart container coming up, but it's actually pointless to grab it because you take 2 hearts of damage in hero mode. So even if you grabbed an 8th one, it wouldn't really do anything.
Yeah. The ultra safety strat would be to have 9 hearts, which happens to be the maximum that you can get in this route. But Jim will be fine.
Does anyone get 9 hearts with this route?
I don't think so.
Not anymore.
Yeah.
9 hearts was a lot more common during the 5-hour speedrun.
Yeah, because during the 5-hour run, you'd actually go through all the dungeons in the game. And you wouldn't skip the first boss, which means you can't get its heart container anyway.
Yeah, while the hearts do make, not dying easier, it also makes not dying easier. And in this game, you have to die a lot.
Right. I mean, that heart that I got is mainly just for safety for the final gauntlet of the run, because the final part of the run consists of a lot of fighting. And at that point in the run, we don't want to do back in time anymore since it's already at the end of the game. All right, but now that we've done with the Ancient Cistern, we're going to go back and finally beat the Fire Sanctuary. And the entire reason that the Ancient Cistern is done before the Fire Sanctuary is because we need to leave the Fire Sanctuary and then come back in if we want to be able to access that overworld bird statue. But we can't just leave the Fire Sanctuary and use the statue that's right at the entrance, because again, the flames that are in front of the Fire Sanctuary are actually back there now. So we can't exit that way, unfortunately. So you're pretty much forced to use back in time to exit the dungeon, because you're not going to be able to get out any other way, except by flying to the sky from the bird statue. But the point of RBMing the bird statue is to skip everything that would normally be used to get to that point.
We actually tested some stuff earlier on, like when we were learning about the RBMs in here, and we made a route and it got soft lock because we didn't have claw shots.
Yeah, we didn't really think that was over.
It's like, yes, it's working. Aw.
Yeah. There were a lot of good theories back when this was found of how to route stuff that didn't quite work out, but I like the route we have now, personally. I think it's pretty cool. All right, so there's normally an iron gate here, but we got rid of it by RBMing it away. We're also going to get the ferry that's in this pot just strictly for safety for the final gauntlet of the run. And now this allows us to access the boss key room, which normally we'd have to go through a whole set of stuff to access. But the boss key chest is actually just completely out in the open now, because we actually did 2 separate RBMs for this to happen. We first did an RBM to raise the iron gate that would normally be shut on the boss key here, but we also had to set the value for the Moldorm that you'd normally have to fight to open up the iron bars to be defeated. Also, that's a bonk of shame.
Bonk of charity.
$10.
Because, where were we? Right, Moldorm. Normally the bars for closing down on the boss key would rise before you fight the Moldorm, and then you have to fight the Moldorm to escape. So you can just raise the bars in casual play, die, and come back. And obviously the developers didn't want you to die and still be able to get to the boss key. So if the Moldorm isn't defeated when we enter that room, the iron bars will just automatically shut back down, and we won't be able to get the boss key.
Yeah, and doing those skips there to open that gate bars skips the needed magma mix or digging mix, whichever one it was. It's been too long.
All right, now it's time for Ghirahim 2. Hopefully we can actually hit him. We have to angle our attacks opposite of where he's putting his hands right here. For the first phase, at least.
We actually have to fight this one.
Yeah. Ooh. Wow, starting off with darts. That's not good.
So a big part of this fight is actually knowing when you can hit Ghirahim 2. There's a lot of parts where you're just kind of standing still in between attacks that Jim is going to be hitting him through. You're also going to want to make sure to manage your stamina. It's really easy to kind of lose track of how many quick spins you're doing, and quick spins drain your stamina really quickly. So those are all things to be mindful of.
Shouldn't be much more.
Should be a couple of
That's fine. Yeah, thankfully we have enough health to survive that attack. Yeah, unfortunately that RNG was kind of You obviously, we don't want him to do any of his dart attacks or to like jump up into the air and then come back down because those are slow.
At the end of the day, we take those.
And we do.
As long as he dies.
All right, so I'm actually going to collect this heart container just to make sure my health is refilled to full, so I can take one more hit of damage potentially on the final gauntlet. I normally wouldn't get this, but just for a little extra safety.
First and only, huh?
That heart is for one specific danger. Like one thing.
The more the merrier for Horde.
So we've now beaten the Fire Sanctuary. And once we beat the Fire Sanctuary, this activates the line of progression for getting to the second Imprisoned Fight. And to activate the second Imprisoned Fight, we need to charge a Skyward Strike in front of the Gate of Time. But the Gate of Time currently isn't in the Sealed Temple right now because we never raised it. So we have to go do that next. And we will actually be doing that back in time. So that's why I saved at this prompt. And now I'm just side hopping into these flames to take damage over and over again. But again, yeah, the flames are back because we only get one load without them. So it's convenient that we can at least damage down with them at the very least. And this is going to be another Faron back in time. So we'll be saving File 2 at the Bazaar statue, flying off to the Eldin Pillar, which will take us to Faron because, you know, logic. And then we will be activating the Gate of Times through some bit magic stuff. So if we want to read some few more donations while we do this same sequence again, feel free.
Absolutely. We have a $200 donation. Woo! This is from Pretty Chic for a Girl Geek. I like the name. Who says, some rupees are red, some bokoblins are blue. The Skyward Sword speedrun is legendary, and so is AGDQ.
Yeah.
Woo!
You were getting ready for a pun there.
Yeah, I know, right? Happy 10th anniversary, AGDQ, and thanks to all who made this milestone possible. If we can beat these awesome games, we can beat cancer. Honk!
Honk.
I was surprised we hadn't heard a honk in a while. We need more donation honks, guys. Come on.
I mean, I have them if you want them.
Yes, please keep reading.
All right, here's one. A $25 donation from Cherry Scary, who says, they keep talking about going back in time, but I don't see any ocarinas. This run has been fascinating. Good luck to all the runners this week. Honk!
Honk.
There's a $25 donation from Crucio, who says, congratulations on 10 years of GDQ. Day one has been amazing, and this Skyward Sword run is impressive. Go Gymnast! Honk!
Honk.
You want another one?
Yeah, I can do one.
All right. This one is a $250 donation. Woo! This is from Anani Goose 161.
Of course.
Who says, the hero of time is Lonk. He rolls fast and tends to bonk. But he hit many things. Now the goose spreads his wings. So now our hero is Honk!
All right. Hey, here's Goose. Goose.
Goose.
Excuse me.
Speaking of geese.
Yeah. All right, so because we selected File 3 entering this area, this cutscene with Goose appeared here. And we want to make sure that we keep the value for this cutscene back in time. So I'm not allowed to select another file right now. So I'm going to open up the copy prompt for the second file, but I'm not actually going to copy anything. I'm just going to use it to make sure that I don't accidentally select a different file. And be careful as I go over to this door here. And so now right here, I can actually use bit magic to complete the harp tutorial without actually having to do it. So when I select File 2 and run into this circle, I'll just instantly get the Ballad of the Goddess. And using this, I can do a reverse bit warp into the cutscene of the Gate of Time raising. And so now that the Gate of Time is raised, I can successfully trigger the Imprisoned 2 fight. Although, because the map isn't quite in the right state, I have to honk my way out of the room and then honk back in, apparently.
This is actually the reroute. We did this a little bit earlier in the run, right after we got the harp from behind the temple in Lanayru.
Thankfully, they let you leave here.
Yeah.
The one time in a Zelda game where you're supposed to fight a boss and they let you just run away.
Honk.
Honk.
So yeah, we have to charge a Skyward Strike here, and this is going to trigger the second Imprisoned Fight to be able to be triggered. The shaking we were seeing the first time was actually the first Imprisoned Fight, but since we triggered the second one just like kicked the first one out of there, and it doesn't really exist anymore.
Imagine if I like Imprisoned 1 and 2 at the same time.
Don't think the game would be able to handle that.
It'd be really funny.
Too many particles.
Or if you had to go like back to back.
Right.
It's like a gauntlet.
All right, so before we do the Imprisoned 2 fight, we have to go through this lovely cutscene with Goose right here. He's gonna honk. Yeah.
Very confident Goose.
He's basically explaining to us how to use the Grucinator, which is the sort of help that he provides for us during the Imprisoned 2 fight. But if we can do the fight correctly, we actually won't need to use the Grucinator. So hopefully we'll be able to do that here today.
Sure, I think you made a slight mistake. That's the Goose-inator?
Oh, yeah, right. I'm sorry. I can avoid taking damage there by side hopping down. Okay.
Here we go. Hey.
So we cut off all those fingers, causing the Imprisoned to attack us, but that also gives us an opportunity to ride up this air vent. And now we can very quickly get onto his head like this to begin the first spike into it. Okay, so the last hit that I did there on the spike was a jump attack. This makes it so that we can actually stay on the head of the Imprisoned in between cycles. So if I do this again here by positioning myself correctly... yeah. So now we can stay on the head of the Imprisoned for all 3 of these cycles, and the fight will be concluded momentarily. So it ends up being very short. Oh, okay, good.
Oh, hey.
Spin attack, for some reason, like, failed to push it this spike twice.
That was really good. This fight's super hard. Like getting those jump slashes in can be like sometimes he shakes his head, you miss, and sometimes you jump slash in a weird angle, and you just don't get that stick.
Yeah, it's not a very intuitive strategy, but it helps us defeat the Imprisoned very quickly, so it's very nice.
Wasn't that actually found on a YouTube video?
Yeah, that was found on a random YouTube video.
If I recall correctly, it's very similar to the rope cutscene that Gymnast skipped earlier. He's in the air while the game checks for whether or not Link is on Imprisoned's head, and since he's not on the ground during that time, it just says, "Oh, you're not on it," so it doesn't kick you off.
All right, there's a special animation that Link has to be in for him to be guaranteed to get off of, or to be thrown off the Imprisone's head, which he doesn't go into in that situation. Oh, that was a good Skyward Strike. You didn't even see it.
All right, Jim, time to draw a triangle.
What, this is 2 triangles?
2.
Actually, no, I think I can see the 1 triangle in there.
Yeah.
So, this is the symbol that you, like, inscribe into this spike, I guess, but that's not the symbol on the ground that's supposed to be there.
The 4-sided triangles right there.
This is the symbol for defeating the first Imprisoned, which we actually skipped. So, yeah.
Yeah, for whatever reason, the symbols on the ground have to be played in sequence. It doesn't just skip over the first one and write the second one on the ground.
Whee!
All right, so now we're going back up into the sealed temple. And from here, we'll finally be able to open the Gate of Time. So if you want to read like 1 or 2 more donations, we have time for that.
Don't forget to save.
Yeah.
There are always more donations. We have a $50 donation from Coffee Man who says, "This Skyward Sword run is awesome. It's making me look forward to the Zelda block later this week. Specifically, the adventure of Honk." Oh, you guys, you were way ahead of me. Wow. And a honk to the past.
Honk.
That was so unenthusiastic.
Honk.
You want one more?
Yeah, 1 more.
Okay. We have a $25 donation from E and K who says, "Strapped for cash, but lost a loved one over the holidays, so we definitely feel the need to donate. Been watching GDQ for years to brighten our days. Gymnast is one of our favorite runners, and the Zelda series is the absolute best. Thank you all so much for doing what you do."
Okay, so we just went through the Gate of Time. And normally after you go through the Gate of Time, you want to collect the true Master Sword, first by talking to Impa and then going through a really long cutscene with Zelda. After you get the true Master Sword, you want to go back through the Gate of Time, where you begin to learn about the Triforce and eventually the Song of the Hero Quest. But the Song of the Hero Quest is very long, and we currently only have about 17 minutes left on the run estimate, so something weird should probably be happening soon.
He's just gonna go really fast.
Yeah, we're gonna go, Tad Tones 1 minute, but colon based another 30 seconds.
Yep.
All right, so this is the very last RBM of the run. We're going to set this one up using Faron bit like normal. So once again, we'll be saving file 2, we'll go into the sky, go into the Eldin pillar, go to Faron, blah, 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 blah. We have time for a donation or two more.
Okay. We have a $50 donation from Mad Bat, who says, "Greetings from the back row. Always a fun time watching gymnasts waddling through Untitled Groose game." Oh my gosh. Here's to another successful GDQ. Honk!
Honk!
You got to smile out of that one.
We also have a $15 donation from Captain Toad 178, who says, "Hey everyone, had to donate when my man Gymnast was running. Love the run, love the event. Let's kick cancer's butt. Honk!"
Honk!
All right, one more. Okay, we have a $15 donation from Cleanup Squad, who says, "Been watching since 2013. Donated every year. Somehow I've never played a Zelda game before. I know what I'll be doing with my time next weekend." And honk!
Honk!
Okay, so with this being the last time we do RBM, inside the Sealed Grounds general area, there's one very powerful flag that we have the ability to set. And that's the flag for unlocking the door to Hylia's temple, right? Normally the door to Hylia's temple is not supposed to be open until you beat the Sky Keep. But by performing RBM specifically, actually, hold on a second. I need to redo this because I screwed something up. Never mind. Yeah, I forgot that there's actually a special setup that needs to happen for doing this RBM that completely skipped my mind. It even skipped the couch's mind.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah, I didn't pay attention to it at all.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. We'll still be underestimate, hopefully.
That's more donation time now.
I know.
Yeah.
We have more donations?
Ooh, I do have a few. Okay, I have a lot. We have a $50 donation from Simon Nagriff, who says, "Had to donate during a Zelda game, my favorite game series. My dad is currently going through chemotherapy. I want to say, I love you, Dad, and I'm proud to be your son." It was really sweet. We have a $100 donation. Woo! This is from Final Nix 216. Nice run. Who says, "Hello from Germany. It's 3 a.m. in the morning here, and I'm really looking forward to Gymnast's Zelda run. He is one of my favorite streamers. Good luck to Jim and Zelda hype." Hype. Donation to Jim's choice. We also have a $10 donation. Oh, sorry.
You can go.
It's quick, don't worry. This is from Annabelle Lee, who says, "Less honkers, more bonkers. Let's go, Gymnast."
Thank you. Okay, so I actually did the correct setup this time. For this specific Faron bit, we don't want to just save file 2 at the Bazaar statue on Back in Time Skyloft. We actually want to check the Upper Academy statue with file 1 and then load or save file 2 with the Upper Academy statue right there. Now, when I selected file 1 and checked that statue, I got the value for that statue in the flag area for file 1 on the title screen. And I can actually keep that value through loading zones and use it in other areas when I'm in Back in Time in other areas. So specifically, I need to steal the value of that statue and use it when I'm in Faron. For this last RBM to be successful over here. So once again, we'll avoid these babas, and then we'll make the log up here. And this time we want to enter in with file 2. So we go into Faron again. I believe the log should actually already be pushed down now, if I remember correctly. Or pushed up against the walls. We won't have to push it again. Yeah, here we go. And now I want to enter into this next area with file 2 selected. Phi is going to give me a cutscene, and we're going to queue up another cutscene using that value that I stole from Skyloft, so that once I press 2 to skip this cutscene after I start my file, that next cutscene will start, and it's going to give us that specific value, but it's going to give us it in the sealed temple instead. And as I said earlier, the value that we set here is the one which unlocks the door to Hylia's realm from the sealed temple, which normally is not supposed to be open until after you beat the Sky Keep. So by setting this 1 bit in memory, we have successfully skipped, Levias. Oh yeah, thank you.
Oh, yep.
We have successfully skipped Levias, the entire Song of the Hero quest, Hylia's Trial, and the Sky Keep, which saves over 75 minutes of time and is what allows the run to be this short.
1 door.
1 door.
Also, the reason that this run is not possible in normal mode is because this cutscene right here just soft locks. But because we're in hero mode, I can press the 2 button and skip the soft lock. How nice. So that's why this run is not possible to do with this specific route on normal mode. So now we're at the Horde, which is like, the very end gauntlet of the game right here. There's going to be like a lot of fighting and sword slashing that's going to go on here. The first challenge that we have at the Horde right here is these 5 blue-capped Bokoblins. Because we have the True Master Sword, we can stun them pretty easily to hopefully chain some attacks onto them. Oh, there's one behind me. Oh, got hit. Out. All right. Now, at this next challenge that Ghirahim's going to try to summon, we're going to be greeted by 3 Moblins with shields. And I'm going to attempt to skip a section of the Horde by running up the shield of the Moblin that spawns next to the wall so that I can skip 1 entire cycle around here. So let's see if I can do this.
Oh,
Oh,
Nice.
shout out to FBA. Easy every time.
Yep. All right, so that skips like a really annoying section with like an overpowered blue Bokoblin and saves like about 50 seconds, I believe. So now we get to this part with the Stalfos. Alright, they gave me vertical attacks. Or excuse me, horizontal attacks, which is nice, because then I can get rid of the Bokoblins also. Getting rid of them. I'm just going to use this fairy right now, because if I die, then I'll go through an extra animation that's going to waste time, which we don't want. Oh, we got an arrow!
You didn't?
You lied.
There's no... there was no text? There's no arrow there?
Yeah. What a brilliant time to get an arrow. But yeah, because we don't have the quiver or the bow, the game's just like, here's a blank text box. Like, do what you want.
You'd think you wouldn't be able to pick up the arrow at all, but no. Not in Skyward Sword.
Also,
crash.
just a little thing I want to show off here. Currently, we can douse for Zelda using our dowsing ability, but if we douse for Zelda right here, we don't get a signal for her, which means that this clearly is not Zelda, and that's a fake that Ghirahim's using.
Oh, man.
Again, afford
It's all lies.
He
Also,
couldn't
the
afford
symbol
this.
changes for no reason down there.
Zelda's appearance fee is too high. Couldn't afford her.
All right. Now it's time for the Ghirahim 3 fight, which is basically just slashy, slashy, and then stabby, stabby. Wow. So yeah, we essentially just want to slash him as fast as possible to push him off the ledge. For these next 2 cycles, he's going to attempt to get my sword to slash in a specific direction so that he can sort of do a counter on me and place me on the outside instead. But as long as we just don't hit the direction that the purple orbs prompt us to, we'll be fine.
You'll notice Jim jumping down with Ghirahim. That's a little bit faster than ending blow from the top platform down into him. Even though it's less than
Wait, Jim, this is
Oh,
a little
Jim.
early. This is a little early.
Oh.
I needed time to take the headset off.
Oh, that's true. Ooh, we might have a surprise for everybody here.
All right, so for this phase, we just want to knock his sword out of his hand and then do a skyward stab, which, yes, is a thing you can do in this game. I'm sorry, I just blew your mind with that.
It's funny that little Skyward Stab strat he did right there to one-cycle him. We could have always done, but we barely found it recently.
And then because we don't have a shield, we're going to use a Skyward Strike here to make him vulnerable to breaking the sword and being able to stab him again. Okay.
So I'm not sure if our audience knows, but Gymnast is a Jedi.
He feels Demise. His every move.
All right,
It's time.
let's go.
So at SGDQ 2018, there was a donation incentive for me to fight Demise blindfolded. But I unfortunately died the first time I tried to fight him, so I need to redeem myself as a Skyward Sword master.
All right, he's got to hear stuff.
We need a lot of audio, yeah.
Yeah, he's got to hear it.
You tried to get me.
What?
Okay.
New strats.
Am I targeting him? I'm not. There he is.
Okay.
No, you don't. Stop doing that.
Let's go.
Okay.
Time is going to end when Demise gets stabbed in the chest. I am not the last Jedi. All right, I'll try this one more time. If I don't end up getting it, then I'll use my vision again.
Listen, Jim, do or do not. There is no try. Feel the honk.
Feel the power of the honk flowing through me. I wish I knew more Star Wars quotes, but I don't, unfortunately.
I got you.
All right, attempt number 2.
Here we go.
Yeah, there we go. First base.
Very smooth.
Timing here is really important.
Here we go.
Time.
There we go, Jim!
Yeah,
That was incredible.
That was The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword in 2:25:36. We hit our estimate.
Let's go.
We had a few bumps along the way, but I'm going to blame the new route.
The best idea that you've ever had.
So, yeah, about like 1 year ago, we never would have conceived that it could even be possible for a time like this to be possible in Skyward Sword. Good redundancy. But I want to just shout out some few people from the community. First off, thank you from my couch for joining me on this lovely run here today.
It's a pleasure.
And
It's very fun. Enjoyed every second.
Good time.
All the honks.
all the honks. And I also want to thank Azer67 and Copernicus for their continued work on documenting and testing all of the flags that we have in this game for all of their potential uses on reverse bit magic and making this game very interesting to run and confusing to watch for new viewers.
To say the least.
I also want to shout out the old school Skyward Sword runners for inspiring me to get into this game in the first place, right? Like Indy Kenobi, Test Runner, TLO ZSR, and all those other old folks. But yeah, I think that's it for me. We have successfully eradicated the Demon King. And yeah, thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.
Wow, what a fantastic run. And thank you, Kung Fu Fruit Cup, for hosting. My screen name is Covert Muffin, and I'm going to be leading up the hosting station for the next run.